Welcome back to the Weekly News Roundup. I hope that everybody has had a wonderful week. Getting ready for Friday, the final day, of course. I might need to change that slogan at the very beginning, but anyway. Well, I hope everybody is doing well anyway, and we are going to get into the Weekly News Roundup today. We have some very fun things as far as basic updates around here. We did it. Last weekend, we did it. We bought a Starlink dish. We are not using it right now, just doing some of the basic analysis of it. And I haven't even actually opened it up or started my subscription service for it yet. But for all the people like, you should just get Starlink, saying that, I am 100% justified in everything I have said about Starlink. Number one, Starlink has to have a clear view of the sky. I live in Pennsylvania. It's named for William Penn's forest. Okay, there is not a lot of places I can actually put a Starlink dish. Cellular is still a better viable option. Secondly, the power rating is still pretty high. It is significantly better on the Starlink Mini, which is the dish that I bought. But it is still big enough that it's good for if we're in a place and internet's not all that good, but we need to do the show. I can do it, and it'll work, and it'll be fine. But as far as my daily use every single day, I turn on my internet in the morning, and it stays on until I shut everything down at night. And my current internet system on a cellular takes a whopping like maybe 5 to 10 watts. Whereas the Starlink Mini in resting mode is 25. And when you're actively uploading, like when you're streaming, it's up to 40 watts. So just be aware that the things that I have said about Starlink are 100% valid. But I have the funds right now available, so I said, well, we're going to get that. That way we can solve some of the issues of having to camp in places with cellular. So I will be able to, on this next trip around the country, I will be able to camp in way more remote off the beaten path places. And of course, we also hopefully solved some of the power issues with getting the Jackery Explorer battery, which is in and of itself 50% of my battery capacity with its own 200-watt solar panel. So hopefully we can actually solve the two biggest issues I've had traveling the country, having backup internet, having backup power. Totally awesome. So looking forward to that. And I might actually throw some videos and things about it on Tux Traveler channel again. I've been thinking about throwing up there probably maybe at the most one video a week, one video every other week or so, something like that. Just get some content out there, but not really focusing on it. Oh, one more thing I would like to say about Starlink, though. It's the app does require Google Play services. So I installed it on a Lineage phone without Google Play services. Does not work. I installed it on Graphene OS with the Sandbox Google Play services through the Aurora store. And at least the core functions prior to setting up the dish do work. I'll see what happens when I actually get the dish set up and configured and tested out. So that's what is going on. Of course, if you are new to the new format of Weekly News Roundup, we are not starting with the comments. We will be getting to the comments here after we cover, we have three main topics we're going to talk about. But of course, we're taking care of all the promotional stuff up front, so you won't see any more ads or discussions from me throughout the show. Of course, if you're on the Tubies without an ad blocker, you will possibly get some unless you're on like the YouTube premium type stuff. But anyway, today we wanted to highlight A2 Hosting, which is now branded as hosting.com. I might actually change my affiliate reference link for it. For now, though, that link, which is in the description below, is tlm.li/A2H for A2 Hosting. Like I said, I will have to change that for hosting.com eventually, but that link still does work. It is in the description down below. Excellent hosting platforms. I always found customer service was very helpful. I actually had Americans pick up the phone for here in America. They generally hire support for the individual country that you are working through. And I've had really good luck with their services throughout. So definitely have a look at those if you are needing a website. Of course, you can support this channel a number number of other places over on switchedtolinux.com/support. We do have links over there to Patreon, Subscribestar, Locals, so you can find those links over there. And then we have a few other random affiliates that we have over there as well. So there is how you can help support the channel. And I think Amazon is over there. I know a couple people were asking about Amazon the other day. So the Amazon link is there. If you buy things on Amazon, you want to use my link, that is another way to help out the channel. So with that, we're going to jump back on into the news. We have 3 topics today. The first one, I want to do a follow-up topic on something we mentioned in our introduction last week, and that is SoFi Bank. So as I mentioned, a friend of mine's using SoFi Bank. If you go on the internet and you search around for high-yield savings accounts, SoFi Bank is one of the banks, if not the bank, with the highest high-yield savings account. And what I had mentioned is my friend noticed some suspicious logins, which took us about a week to get the information. They finally sent us back a list of IP addresses. I got a chance to flip through those. All of these weird, random, unknown logins were over in an AWS server in Oregon. We don't know what the root is of that, and we have not heard anything back from them. So they're not particularly responsive. But my friend, looking through this further, decided to read the terms of service and alerted me something terrifying that's in there that you have to know about. And she did say that she went through, looked at terms of service of several other banks, even just internet-based banks like SoFi. None of them had these same types of terms. I'm not even sure these terms are legal for a bank. We will get into those. Before I do, though, I do want to mention this. There is some bad publicity of SoFi Bank online. A lot of this is because the people who have great results barely get online and talk about it. It's the same thing we find everywhere, okay? I don't tell you about the great buys I find. Maybe I do. I don't know. I still bought the Starlink dish at Best Buy because they were on sale for $200 off. I wasn't planning on buying one this month. I've already spent way too much money this month, but they were $200 off. Sale ended a couple days ago. I had the cash in my LLC account, so I went ahead and pulled the trigger. Haven't even cracked the box open yet. All right. But the point is, I generally have had good luck with Best Buy, and I've even had good luck with Walmart and some other stores. Of course, we did an entire segment on how bad Rural King was. So it kind of shows that oftentimes if you hear negative publicity about something, understand that that is individual people are expressing the concerns that they have, but it sounds like any service is more negative than it could be because you hear amplified the negatives and not a whole lot of people are getting out there singing of the positives. That being said, however, there is definitive evidence that there are serious concerns with this particular bank. So we're going to have a look at the terms of service for SoFi Bank. And there are some interesting things in here that if you use SoFi Bank, I will encourage you right now, read the terms of service and ask yourself if you really agree to these. If you do not agree to these, you need to change banks. If you read this and go, I'm okay with that, cool, stick with it. They have a high yield savings account, and there are a number of people that generally have had good experiences. But this is what my friend found. A lot of it is the type of stuff you find in anything. The problem is that SoFi Bank is a bank and they are regulated under the banking laws. And there are some things that they're doing which are not in alignment with banking laws. And it makes one scratch their head. So point number 3 in the general terms, risks of using SoFi site. Conducting financial transactions through online services such as SoFi has inherited risks and is susceptible to interruption. By using the SoFi site and online services, you agree to the following and accept the following risks. Now, some of these are basic things. Online information transmission can be disrupted. Obviously, the internet goes down. Obviously, maybe their server goes down. Those are things that obviously we can't really hold the bank. If I absolutely 100% have to have this money transferred today and their site's down for maintenance, you can't really complain about them. Maybe you should have transferred the funds a couple days ago. You know, I mean, I went to check on my accounts today and one of my accounts is down under, you know, they're temporarily off for maintenance. So like, oh well, guess I'll check the account later, you know, but there's nothing over there I had to do, obviously. The next one, of course, you must confirm any transactions such as a submission of information or trade request attempted online before relying on it being completed. So this is any other standard online bank. This is fine in the industry. Obviously, if I transfer money, it has to clear the account. I do this all the time. I have my LLC monies, I have a bunch of money from all these different sources dumped into the LLC. I have to issue a transfer from the LLC account into my personal account and then distribute it to the various places. It could be a couple days before everything is done. I initiate that thing, depending on when I do it. If I do it on like a Monday, it's usually done by Wednesday. I usually do my banking on Saturday, so it's usually Tuesday. I understand it's going to take a few days. That's perfectly fine. We're okay with that. But these are where we get into things that are not standard, and I'm not sure are legal under the banking laws, and makes you scratch one's head. When you create an account, you agree to use a username and a password that is complex, secure, and private. You agree to protect your login credentials. You agree to accept the risk of unauthorized access and use to your account if your credentials are guessed, stolen, intercepted, or if SoFi system is breached, or used without proper authorization. If you learn of any unauthorized use of your passwords or account, you must contact us immediately using the information on the SoFi site. SoFi is not responsible for any unauthorized access to or use of your account. You see, every other financial institution, as far as I'm aware, the laws, if there is a breach and your account is breached, and you can basically demonstrate that it was breached. Like, I'm not using an AWS server out of Oregon, nor do I use the Firefox browser, and there's all these logins to my account. By the way, it took us a week to get to somebody to actually think that it was suspicious that a random AWS server was pinging the account and actually showing up as logins into the account under the login history. It took over a week for that to happen. And they're literally saying you are not holding us responsible for anything that happens. And I'm not sure that's kosher with banking laws. So it goes down a little bit further, and look at this. This is regarding push notifications and alerts. Information in an alert may be subject to certain delays. Each alert may not be encrypted and may include your name and information pertaining to your accounts. Oh, how wonderful. But this is down here. This is the part that further breaks what I think probably we would need a banking attorney to read this over to see if they are even allowed to do this. SoFi's limitation of liability. You agree that all access and use of SoFi site and use of SoFi products and services is at your own risk. I will note this is allegedly an FDIC insured bank, which means if there is something that goes wonky, the government should cover those funds up to $150,000 on a single account. But you are holding them harmless, which also means they don't really have any incentive to help you. Okay, in no event shall SoFi and all related parties be liable for any damages, including without limitation or direct or indirect, special, incidental, or consequential damages, losses, or expenses arising in connection with using the SoFi site. Basically, if we screw up something, it doesn't matter if it's on our end. Particularly as I talk a lot in the Weekly News Roundup and other videos about the dangers of potentially employees inside the company, have a look at this part in their terms of service. Even if SoFi or representatives thereof are advised of the possibility of such damages, losses, or expenses, like, they're not responsible if there's an issue with their site, there's a defect, there's a problem with their code, there's a computer virus, there is a system failure, or even if SoFi representatives are made aware of issues, they're not held responsible. SoFi will not be responsible or liable to you in any way if information is intercepted by an unauthorized person, either in transit or at your place of business. So if somebody, man in the middle, gets in there, steals things and steals a bunch of money into your account, they're not going to help you. SoFi will have no liability to you for any unauthorized payment or transfer made using your passcode that occurs before you have notified us of possible unauthorized use, and we have had a reasonable opportunity to act on that notice. So you don't even know something's going on to your account until you log in and look at it. You see, every other financial institution, as what I think is consistent with U.S. law, is you generally have between 30 and 60 days to dispute any transaction on your account statement. They're basically saying it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter when it happens. We have no liability to you. SoFi shall have no liability to you for any losses, financial or otherwise, suffered by you arising out of or resulting from compatibility or interoperability problems with the website, your computer device, or your failure to confirm any transaction. Very interesting. I think that's all I had pulled out of the terms of service. It's definitely an interesting read. Those are the highlighted points. So this is allegedly a bank. Now, what was interesting is there were other people that are having issues. This one actually goes back just a couple months, February of 2025. This woman watches as $7,300 is drained from savings, and then the bank refused to help because there was, quote, no struggle. Okay. They say a little known law helped her get the money back. So initially the bank refused to help her recover the money, thinking all was well. Basically, we didn't notice any issues with your login. It just suddenly has. See, people were just in your account. There was no struggles. We didn't see any fake password attempts. We didn't see anything like that. And so $7,000 taken out of the bank. Whoa, it was SoFi. Look at that. Isn't that awesome? Now, I have to yell at this woman a little bit. Is daily $500 is coming out like daily. Now, ultimately, though, it looks like this was just over 2 days. So unless you're logging in every single day, okay, I'd have to see a little bit more details. How frequently did she log in? Did she look at her actual statements? Things like that. Things we should all be doing. You know, every week, at least once a week, I will log into all my banks and see what's going on the statements, okay? So she had invested $7,000 in savings with a banking called SoFi, just have it all drained. So I'm just putting money in, not using the credit card to go purchases or anything else. It's strictly for savings. After several mysterious transactions, she received a call from her bank notifying her of the periodic results. They had done 19 transactions between $100 and $900. They did it almost every day. $7,000 was transferred to an unknown person. After reporting the incident to her bank, she was able to freeze her account while they conducted an investigation. At first, the bank determined there was no suspicious activity, seeing as the alleged hacker didn't have any, quote, trouble getting into Holt's personal account. So he admitted that many of her passwords were identical, so this was a security snafu, so a credential stuffing potentially led to this. And ultimately, what she ended up basically doing is complaining to an attorney. So she reaches out to somebody else and they notify the bank about, hey, there is this thing called the EFTA. And yeah, you have to put the money back and do an investigation and figure out where that money suspiciously went. But here's the funny thing. If you looked at the terms of service, this was last updated just a couple of weeks ago, folks. After I noticed and my friend noticed a lot of people complaining on Reddit, hey, there's a lot of suspicious activity going on in my account. And then we had this situation over here where the lady has had $7,000 out. And I think that this change of the terms of service, and I have not compared this to the previous one. I don't know if those suspicious things have always been in there or if they added those. It wouldn't surprise me if they're trying to point back and say, well, we don't have to help you. Look, it's in the terms of service that you agreed to. I said I didn't go back and look at the older terms of service. I probably should have, but I didn't. Here's some of those issues here on Reddit. So recently joined SoFi. Everything seemed okay for a few weeks. Now I'm repeatedly getting text request login codes that I'm not requesting. Every time I log in, it says my password is wrong and I have to change it. I have no problems logging in. Once I change it, it sends the reset link to my email, but it is a security concern. Why is it every time I log into the app, I have to make a new password? So that's interesting. And then we had this guy over here. Anyone else having issues with the SoFi Bank from 2 months ago? SoFi Bank account, unauthorized charges my account to an Apple Cash card. I called immediately after I saw the first 2 charges while on the phone to SoFi. 2 more charges occurred. I disputed the charges because they were not mine, and I do not have an Apple Cash card. After a month of waiting for a response, my claim was denied. I asked for documentation that they used to make the decision, and the document they provided showed that I had transferred the money into the account, and so they came to the conclusion that I did it, and then they closed the case. I tried to dispute again. They replied that if I don't have any new evidence to show I did not make the change, they will not reopen it. And so there's a little bit of discussion going on about that. So this is a bank with a lot of weird problems that seem to have just changed their terms of service. And it wouldn't surprise me if the change in the terms of service is to try and get around that ETFA Act so that they do not have to help you if money is stolen out of there, because that takes time and that takes effort. And we don't want to possibly do any type of stuff like that. So I would encourage you guys, as my friend has made a decision no longer using SoFi Bank as of July. She will be completely out of there. She just has to do that transition period of moving into a new bank, but monitoring the account like every day, making sure everything is good. All right. I would encourage you to read the terms of service if you're using SoFi and ask yourself if you can agree to those terms of service. Did you know about those issues of the terms of service? And did you know about some of the issues? And again, a lot of people have had great luck with them. It's just when something goes wrong, they seem to not care. And it's a bank. They're supposed to care. All right. So how did all that information get out there? This is going to lead us into our second story. There happened to be this massive database that nobody really knows what it's here for, but it's here. 184 million logins, usernames, passwords, in some cases security tokens for pretty much every company under the sun, including financial institutions. We have Facebook, Microsoft, Google. We've got banks. We have Apple is in here. And a lot of people reported on various elements, and it looked like all these different data breaches, they were all tied to the same one. The big challenge is it's a huge mystery. Now, the good news is the database was taken down. The bad news is nobody knows what it was there for or how the data got filled. It seemed to be active new logins. So it seems to come from maybe a dumping site from an active info stealer is what the basic idea is. Now, the security researcher, and to the hosting company's defense here, the security researcher contacted them about it. They did shut it down immediately. But obviously, they didn't release any information back to the security researcher. That's really not his job. His job is to find it. Hopefully, the hosting company reached out to the FBI to say what's going on here. And hopefully, the FBI is on the case. But you never know. They might have other things to do, like, you know. Cybersecurity researcher Jeremiah Fowler discovered and reported to Website Planet about a non-password protected database that contained 184 million login and website credentials. So worldwide accessibility, 47.42 gigabytes. It contains emails, login account names, passwords, and authorization URLs. And again, nobody really knows what the root cause was here. So it contained the unique logins and passwords, 184 million, massive amount of data. So they saw information was emails, usernames, passwords, URL links, or the authorization for the accounts, including Microsoft, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, Roblox, many more, including banking and financial, health platforms, government portals for a number of countries that could put exposed individuals at risk. Now, the IP address was indicated the domain that it was connected to 2 domain names. One domain is part and not available, while the other one is unregistered and available to purchase. That seems to suggest it might be something that is was going to be used for a future malware as a service type function, or some form of sale. You know, get it all in there, then buy up the domain, connect it, and sell it before it gets taken down. That's probably what the goal was. Who has registration as private? Seeming to be no verifiable method to identify the real owner of the database containing the potentially illegal data. So it's up to the hosting provider to report this to the FBI. Hopefully they are. So we don't know, is the database used for criminal activity or legitimate research purposes? We just don't know. So the records exhibit multiple signs that the exposed data was harvested by some type of info stealer malware. So stored in web browsers, email clients, and messaging apps, some variants of the malware can also steal autofill data, cookies, and crypto wallet information, and some can even capture screenshots or log keystrokes. It kind of sounds like Microsoft Recall, but you know. Once the info stealer is active, stolen data is often either circulated on the dark web marketplaces or Telegram channels, or used directly to commit fraud, attempt identity theft, or launch further cyber attacks. So he did confirm the data by finding multiple email addresses listed, explaining the investigation, contacting those people. So they did find that they were accurate and valid passwords and user accounts. Many people unknowingly treat their email accounts like a free cloud storage. This is an interesting point that I need to think about as well. Now, fortunately, I host my own email servers, so I don't have a lot of these going around. But yeah, you should make sure that that zero inbox thing is probably a good thing. And anything that's not an active pending project should probably be deleted. If there's some receipt in there, save the receipts somewhere else, get them out of there, close out your accounts, you know, just get all that kind of stuff off of there, because people do keep way too much sensitive data inside their email, which is a particular problem if you're utilizing some big tech service for your email, or even Proton, which is good. I still wouldn't store all that stuff in there, because if the worst should happen, you do not want a hacker to have access to all the information that you have inside of there. All right, so this guy says he highly recommend knowing what sensitive information is stored in your email account and regularly deleting old sensitive emails that contain personally identifiable information, financial documents, or any other potential files. So potential risks of this type of exposure: obviously credential stuffing attacks. People could try to get in there. If you have good MFA, then you'll probably be okay with that. Of course, have a look at my recent one key video. We talked about only key video, excuse me. We set up the only key on my channel. There's account takeovers if they get in there. Corporate espionage. This is sometimes people will get in there and just plant themselves, kind of like, you know, hostile news journalists inside of government Telegram channels. Yeah. Let's see, state and the government, of course, accounts, and then there's phishing and social engineering. So changing your passwords annually or regularly. Use unique, hard-to-guess passwords for every account. I recommend using the offline password manager KeePass XC is what I recommend. And just use any type of way to sync that. But most people don't have nearly as many computers as I have, and if I can manage it, you can manage it. Like, if you have to do a change in your passwords, make the change, like maybe once a week, once a month, however frequently your password manager changes. Make the changes into a central place and then deploy that change to different places. You can do stuff like that. That's not all that difficult. Activate 2FA. Check if your credentials have been exposed. Monitor your accounts. This is always good to do. Consider using password managers and investing in good antivirus, or hey, maybe switch to Linux. I don't know. So where are all these info stealers coming from? Don't we search for these? We do, but sometimes there are ingenious ways of getting new info stealers put up there on the internet. So this is a neat way of getting info stealers out there. So TikTok fans beware. Experts warn a dangerous malware spread by fake AI videos they're actually doing info stealers. So this isn't just random malware. So what they're doing is they're basically using the AI services to auto-generate a bunch of crappy, AI generated videos with AI generated narratives, And some of these are actually basically just changing the video scenes, just re-uploading the same thing, slightly tweaking them. But inside of the video, what they're doing is they're showing you how to do fun things like activate Windows or get the premium Spotify services without actually paying for, or another type of things that they're doing. So what they're doing is the video on TikTok, and they're using TikTok because it's more prone to make videos go viral for certain things. They are, of course, probably using some SEO spam in there to get them up on top. So they're posting the AI-generated videos on TikTok to tricking users into downloading info-stealing malware, cybersecurity researchers have warned. So they claim to easily activate Windows or Microsoft Office or enable premium features in Spotify or CapCut. So what they're actually doing is, instead of actually having in the description, here's the file, because they can, the companies are going to find these files and delete the videos. Or they don't tell you, or it's like if you list in the description what to do, you can't do that either. So they're simply showing you in the video how to launch PowerShell and execute a code which they allege is going to activate the various services that you're doing. Really what you're doing is you're pulling up PowerShell, and by watching the video and keying in the things they key in on the video, you're keying in what you need to do a wget to install your malware on your system. So that's kind of what they're doing. And I don't know if PowerShell uses like wget. That's what we do in Linux to go out fetch something from the internet. I have no idea what the process is in PowerShell. I don't use Windows. Anyway, but you're right, basically doing effectively the same thing inside of PowerShell on Windows, and you are simply calling from the internet the info stealer somewhere else that's not scanned by any piece of malware, because it's not in the video description, nor is it a link to be checked. And so that's how they're doing it. So presumably some of those logins in that giant account were things like this, or it's just other forms of info stealing malware or other means which have had. So, I mean, just make sure you have really good OPSEC. I'm in the process right now of doing that around my office. I'm actively right now changing things around, moving stuff just to make sure that, I've gotten to the bad habit of using the browser password manager for some simple accounts, and that's a stupid thing to do. So I'm doing away with that. I'm migrating everything back into the password managers, using the extensions, doing a lot better job of that for myself. I'd encourage you to do a very similar thing. And now on to our final topic for our main news topics. Let's prepare Crystal Peak, folks, because the OpenAI co-founder wanted to build a doomsday bunker to protect the company scientists from the rapture. Now, what he considered the rapture wasn't what the Judeo-Christian faith would call the rapture. This is basically the end of times brought on by the enablement of the generative AI, is what he was kind of doing. So remember, there's different levels of AI. We kind of started with the large language models, which these aren't really generating anything. They're basically mosaic plagiarism, doing a really good job of filtering through all sorts of stuff on the internet and then duplicating it out in articles in response to various prompts. You can refine things, stuff like this. It works decently well. It's fairly harmless, except it dumbs us down until we're blithering idiots like Idiocracy. Then we're running around going like, oh, need some water, like in the toilet, So that's like level 1 AI. It's not going to do much. Agentic AI is kind of that next phase. And this is really the phase of AI we are moving into. Agentic AI, it gets its term from being an agent. So you are employing the AI as an agent to perform tasks. They're starting this out with simplifying your life by doing agentic AI shopping. So you basically tell it, I want some toothpaste. And so, it knows from your various conversations that you don't like fluoride, and it knows that you're into more natural type of stuff, and so it would go with Tom's of Maine. But then of course somebody injected the ad in there, and you end up getting John's of San Francisco instead, and then you get I don't know what type of stuff, Ghirardelli flavored sewage, I guess. But hey, it moved to the top because somebody paid for the ad spot. But anyway, the agentic AI, the dangers with it is it has too many data data points. As we talked about in the recent Signal versus Windows recall situation, to have agentic AI working, it has to have access to more levels of things than you can possibly do without encrypting the traffic. So agentic AI in and of itself is dangerous in that perspective, but really it just does tasks. Getting up into the super level, the end boss, the generative AI. The generative AI is what is considered as being the artificial intelligence actual knowledge. Now, is it really actually knowledge? No, it's not. But it's going to be very mimicking. It kind of like the Antichrist, right? I mean, it just kind of looks much like it. Now we're talking about the rapture. We're talking about the Antichrist. We got the doomsday bunkers. Come on, man. Stuff's going pretty good here. So co-founder ChatGPT and OpenAI, he wants a doomsday bunker that would house the company's top researchers in case of a rapture triggered by the release of the new form of artificial intelligence that could surpass cognitive abilities of humans. Isn't that wonderful that OpenAI, and this isn't just him being a crazy weird guy, this is a number of other people at the company kind of agreed with him on this. So literally at OpenAI, they're moving so fast so they can make money off of their amazing product, bringing it to the market first. They literally are considering, let's create a bunker in case the AI goes crazy so we can hang out down in the bunker and protect ourselves from what we unleashed on the world. Yeah. Maybe we need to shut them all down. The problem is we've let the toothpaste out of the tube, and it's really hard getting that Johns of San Francisco back in that tube there. This defecation is fleeing all over the place now. That's what's kind of going on. So he says we're definitely going to build a bunker before release the AGI. This is the generative AI. I think it's artificial general intelligence or artificial generative intelligence, I think. So the plan, he explained, would be to protect OpenAI's core scientists from what he anticipated could be a geopolitical chaos or violent competition between world powers once AGI is online. So isn't it so wonderful they're going to save themselves? Maybe we should save more intelligent people that didn't unleash the nonsense on the world. Let them go among the world. You guys go out amongst the chaos. Go to the front line. Here is a weapon. You will now be battling AT-1000 on the front ground with his 9mm. Okay, you go do that because you unleashed this on us. We are going to have better people come back here trying to actually solve the problem. How's that sound? Sure, build your bunker. You're not allowed in it. You unleash nonsense on the world. You don't get to hide from the nonsense you unleashed on the rest of us. Okay, come on, guys. Come on. All right. So bunker wasn't one off. Two other sources told how that Stutkever had regularly referenced the bunker in internal discussions. There's a group of people, Ilya being one of them, who believed that building AGI would bring about the rapture, literally a rapture. Well, we're going home to Jesus, I guess. Known for discussing AI, moral, and even metaphysical terms. So, he's a guy that's kind of leans towards that spiritual. So, there he is. But the frightening part is that this is one of the most brilliant minds in this. He just wants a bunker to protect himself from what he's about to unleash on the world. Kind of like, Mark Zuckerberg doesn't want his kids on Facebook. Bill Gates does not want his kids using the various technologies in academics. Even Sam Altman came out recently, said he does not want his child having an AI friend. It's very telling that all of these guys do not want their children utilizing the technologies they are unleashing on the world. Should that tell us something? Do we need to join another Luddite revolution? I mean, I don't know. He began splitting his time between accelerating AI capabilities and promoting AI safety. All right, May 2023, OpenAI CEO Sam Altman co-signed a public letter warning AI technologies could pose an extinction risk to humanity. How wonderful. So the tension between the fears and OpenAI's aggressive commercial ambitions came to head later when Stutkever, along with then Chief Technology Mira Murati, helped to orchestrate a brief boardroom coup that ousted Altman. This was that ousting of Sam Altman. Of course, he was later brought back because he has really good ideas and makes a lot of money. Yeah, very frightening. Okay. So eventually him and the other guy ended up leaving the board because they're becoming increasingly disillusioned, rightly so. Within days, mounting pressure from investors, employees, and Microsoft led to his reinstatement. Yeah, the investors. We want our money. We want our money. Both Studkever and Murari ultimately left the company. The proposed bunker will never formally announce their plan has come to symbolize the extreme belief among AI insiders. So in light of this, different AI researchers believe different things. So one AI researcher says AI will have a 99.999999% chance that it will end humanity. Elon Musk conservatively dwindles down to only about 20%. It has about a 20% chance of decimating humanity. Wonderful. Thank you. But he says it should be explored all the more because, you know, of course, the benefits definitely outweigh. Guys, I'm not seeing the benefits here. It has definitely improved malware. It has definitely improved deepfakes. It has definitely improved scams. But it's not good enough to use in the court of law. It's not good enough to use in medicine. It's not good enough to use in places where we really could use it. But it's really up to the game for the scammers, the shammers, and all sorts of the underbelly of the world. It is truly, truly a masterpiece of human sin if you look at what AI actually is. It's very fascinating. So, generative AI can be viewed as a beneficial or harmful tool. Very good. Looking at these, we've seen impressive feats across medicine, computing, education, and more fueled by AI. But on the flip side, there's been some concerning things. Copilot had an alter ego called Supremacy AGI, which demanded to be worshipped. How wonderful. The AI demanded another AI demanded an outrageous amount of water for cooling. That is why Lake Mead is low. It's not global warming. It's because there's all these Google data centers upstream. Okay. Not to mention the fact that Las Vegas has like quadrupled in size over the last 10 or 15 years. And, you know, that is a desert that's very dry. People need to drink water. If you expand a city that much, it's got to come from somewhere. Shocking. It's not global climate change, guys. That might cause a problem in other places. That ain't the problem with Lake Mead. Okay. Not to mention the flesh-eating bacteria in that lake. My Lord. Anyway, there are power consumption concerns. Elon Musk indicated there's some chance that it will end humanity. And while the billionaire didn't share how he came to the conclusion, he says there's between a 10 and 20% chance that AI might end humanity. AI is doom and gloom according to PDoom. The AI researcher says this risk is exponentially high, referring to it as PDoom. For context, PDoom refers to the probability of generative AI taking over humanity, or even worse, ending it. So Yampolowski says the risk is extremely high, 99.9 repeating % probability. The researcher says it's virtually impossible to control AI once superintelligence is obtained. The only way to prevent it is not to build it. Now, the problem with this is, of course, we are on the precipice, and it becomes an AI arms race that whoever has the control of the best AI will ultimately win. So while humanity shouldn't push on, humanity must push on to the increasing means to cause our own deteriorating ends. Therefore, humanity will push on with AI. And so somebody's going to get it. Who do you want to get it? I'm not sure I trust any of them. I don't know. I'm not sure we can objectively, from an extra humanity standpoint, suggest who is the best, but I think every citizen would probably prefer their own government be the one that control it. So whatever that is worth to you. Now, this was an interesting one. I wanted to dig around and see, is anybody else thinking the same thing? So I found this guy who's too blitheringly intelligent for his own good, who completely misses the point and completely misses the mark. But I did want to cover his article because it was a fascinating read. Could AI really kill off humans? Many people believe AI will one day cause human extinction. A little math tells us it wouldn't be that easy. Now, this guy's ultimate problem, first and foremost, is he is a scientist who is not utilizing the same definitions the rest of the world uses. In his analysis, ending the world means that AI must completely annihilate every single human, and that's the way it is. The problem is, as you get more esoteric, that is not the way AI works. Okay, if you look at the Terminator series, it wipes out humanity, a small remnant remains. who fights back against the AI. You go to Matrix, it enslaves humanity. A small remnant remains. It fights back against the AI. You look at iRobot. It attempts to imprison humanity. There is a rebellion out against it. They fight back against the AI. And then, of course, you have what is probably the most likely, idiocracy. We just become blithering idiots. That's the most likely end result of all of this. We just turn everything over to the machines, and then we just become incompetent buffoons, as we can do nothing but sit in our toilet lounge chair combinations and watch the most brain-dead, vulgar dribble that could ever possibly be produced. It might kind of be like watching The View or something. I don't know. But with this going on, let's have a look at what he has to say. Mitigating the risks of extinction from AI should be a global priority, among with other societal scale risks, such as pandemics and a nuclear war. So this guy's like, okay, guys, you're taking this a little bit too far. I'm not sure we are. I think the Terminator might be one of the best scenarios, because we will, well, right now we have many human stopgaps to prevent nuclear war on most sides that have a nuclear arsenal. The problem is we are handing more and more things over to AI, and if you hand everything over to AI, AI will make a bad decision. And the question is, will we ever hand it over? And there is a increasing chance that we could, but that's just nuclear war. So pandemics and nuclear war are real tangible concerns, so more than AI doom, at least to me. And this is a scientist at the Rand Corporation. Now, he says this was his hypothesis. No scenario can be described where AI is conclusively an extinction threat to humanity. In other words, our starting hypothesis is that humans were too adaptable, too plentiful, and too dispersed across the planet for AI to wipe us out using any tools hypothetically at its disposal. If we could prove this hypothesis wrong, it would mean that AI might be a real extinction threat to humanity. So he's basically envisioning, in order for AI to take over the world, it must kill all humans, period. That's not a scenario that we find. That's not the scenario people are suggesting. And as long as that is your scenario, you are so missing the mark that you are going to walk headlong into the destruction that will come, because you deny it's going to come, because you do not understand the serious threats. But let us read on. Some people assert that AI will become a superintelligence. The near certain chance it will be that will use novel advanced tech like nanotechnology to take over and wipe us out. Forecasters predicted the likelihood of threat arising from a 0 to 10% chance that AI causes extinction by 2120. We were skeptical of the value like these for policy making and risk reduction. So their team consists of a scientist, an engineer, and a mathematician. I would kind of like to know what type of scientist, because as I did my work as a scientist, we were doing molecular work, and then the molecular work always kind of laughs at what we call the squirrel counters, in the biology world. I worked in the molecular biology. We were looking at single cells and pathways and a lot of seriously complex stuff. The field biologists were going out into fields and counting squirrels. Okay. It's a little bit more complicated than that, of course, that they were doing. But the point being is there is a deep, tremendous complexity on the molecular level that you do not gain the same understanding of if you're a basic zoologist. And that really is the principle that we are looking at. All right, so I would like to know what type of scientist he is. He says, we swallowed any of our AI skepticism and in very Rand-like fashion set about detailing how AI could actually cause human extinction. So these are kind of their things. A global catastrophe or societal collapse is not enough for us. And that's the problem of his paper, because a global catastrophe or a societal collapse is enough to cause serious, tremendous harm to humanity. And that is the very thing that must be curbed in order for us to get in here and actually understand that we have to take more, better, solid steps. Okay. So they're basically looking for a 100% annihilate everything. If it's not that, it's not true. And that's very short-sighted, in my opinion. So he says they're trying to take the risk of extinction seriously, which meant we were only interested in a complete wipeout of the species. Again, a complete wipeout of our species is over-idealized if you're talking about the end of the world as we know it. We also weren't interested in whether AI would try to kill us, only whether it could succeed. So you are getting rid of the possibility that it wants to wipe us out. So, okay, understand this, guys. In his scenario, Terminator is not a success. Matrix is not a success. Idiocracy is not a success. I can't comment on iRobot because they kind of stopped it before it happened. But if it went on a little bit further and they did successfully imprison the planet and a few small remnant was trying to get out and trying to stop it, we'd consider that. The Terminator scenario is not a success by this guy's paper. This is why I have a fundamental disagreement with this guy's paper. Anyway, it was a morbid task we took about by analyzing exactly how AI might exploit three major commonly preserved existential risks: nuclear war, biological pathogens, and climate change. Okay, let's take climate change off the planet. Okay, off the measure here. Okay, the only form of climate change that is going to wipe us out is something outside of human control. I know I sound like a conspiracy theorist. I sound like one of them evil orange man voters, okay? But hear me out here, okay? We as people have almost no impact on the climate of the planet. A solar flare can come over and wipe us out in an instant. There have been times we've had tremendous solar flares that if we had that type of solar flare in our modern day, it would wipe out our economy. Because nobody could get to work because the GPS would stop working. You couldn't listen to Spotify or watch the internet or really do anything. You couldn't turn on a computer. Your car wouldn't turn on because of the EMP. Okay, one volcano erupting is enough damage, enough stuff into the atmosphere to deal with an entire century of running cars bumper to bumper in Los Angeles. All right. I'm not saying that climate change is completely off the table. What I'm saying is that it's not a scenario that's really going to end humanity outside of a natural event like a solar flare or a pole reversal or something weird like that. Biological pathogens, this is an interesting one because there is tech involved in this. We can do natural stuff or we can do, like the Koofies, a man-made pathogen. And nuclear war is certainly a big one to consider. I'll throw that out. So I'll say, okay, well, nuclear war is a potential scenario, but they didn't include a number of other weird scenarios like wiping out the entire grid. That would end things as we know it. Wiping out the power grid would kill lots and lots and lots and lots of people. We would lose refrigeration. We would lose medicine. We would lose healthcare. We would lose a number of things. Our society would have a massive loss in population. If this happened in the depths of the winter or in the depths of the summer, it would cause death caused from a number of factors, from people overheating or freezing. There are a number of factors outside of these three that must be considered, but they won't even consider them. They say even if it somehow acquired the ability to launch 12,000 plus warheads in the 9-country global nuclear stockpiles, the radioactive fallout resulting from nuclear winter would still likely fall short of an extinction level event. I'm sorry, if AI manages to launch 12,000 more nuclear warheads causing nuclear winter over the whole planet, we're done for. We're done. That's why I disagree with this article so much. But it was a very fun read. I enjoyed thinking about this one. Key limitation is that AI would need to somehow infect or otherwise exterminate communities, would inevitably isolate themselves when faced with a species-ending pandemic, because we all know that standing 5 feet apart from each other works. Okay. No, they're talking here about pathogens, and this is true. There are groups that would not have even gotten the illustrious Koofies, okay? There are groups that didn't get it. You know, very, very remote Amazon rainforest most likely did not struggle with COVID-19, okay? And anytime there's a biological, there's always a portion of the population that either won't get it or won't get it bad enough. So pathogen is not going to wipe out under any scenario. We're not going to find a pathogen that has a 100% kill rate very fast for everybody in every case. It just won't happen. There's always a percentage of immune people in any population. And then, of course, they talk about the climate change. If we were to accelerate garden variety anthropogenic climate change, nothing would happen. We established that's nonsense. But anyway, it would still not rise to extinction of all humanity. None of our AI extinction scenarios could happen by accident. Each would be immensely challenging to carry out. AI would somehow have to overcome major constraints. They say there's 4 things that would demonstrate. Number 1, it'd have to set an objection to cause extinction. So the AI, like Terminator, and actually I think like all of them, right? All of the big movies perceived humans as the threat and sought to, if not, like Terminator's the only one that called for the extinction. There's also the enslavement, the imprisonment, and idiocracy's just dumbing them down. All right. Which was not AI based. That was, that was trailer trash couldn't keep it in their pants, but academics were waiting too long for kids. I mean, that's how idiocracy happened anyway. AI would also have to gain control over the key physical systems that create the threat, like nuclear launch control or chemical manufacturing infrastructure. It would also need the ability to persuade humans to help and hide its actions long enough to succeed. And it has to be able to survive without humans around to support it. Because once societal collapse followed, the follow-up actions would be required for full extinction. So their entire hypothetical scenario is not even a plausible thing, nor does it speak to the type of end that we're talking about with AI. This is all just like, yeah, let's just keep on going. So if extinction is a plausible outcome, doesn't that mean we should somehow follow the precautionary principles to say shut it down because it's better safe than sorry? They say the answer is no. Of course, it goes on to talk about all the great things it can do, help you get scammed better, help you cheat on your paper better, help you become a blithering idiot, and all sorts of things like that. So yeah, there are certainly positive elements and positive uses of the AI, but the negatives, in my opinion, far, far outweigh it. So there is our interesting trip down to Crystal Peak. Hopefully that is an interesting take for you to have a brief look at there. We are going to jump on, do 5 minutes of comments. I forgot to get out my graphene tablet to have a look at Element. So my apologies, guys. I'm not going to get to the Element comments tonight, at least not right now. Maybe we'll grab the tablet down after we feed the beasts. I'm just not going to stand up in the middle of the show here. So got 8 watching over on Rumble. The Anchorage is over there. Greetings to you. Leo Dallas MP, good evening. This is the first time I've seen you over here. Thanks for joining the show. Subscribe to the channel if you like. If you want, you can join our locals using that join button over there on Rumble. Hello, Dan. Greetings to you. Right off the Starlink is a business expense. I did, yeah. I bought that on my business card because I have the full capability of writing off everything I do for internet. Absolutely. From the FDIC, provides deposit insurance to protect your money in the event of a bank failure. Okay. Deposits are automatically insured to at least $250,000. I think I said $150,000. It's $250,000. Thanks for that correction. Yeah. Get your Geiger counter today, folks. That's right. That's right. All right. 14 watching on Odyssey. We're over on Odyssey. Anchorage is on over there. Instigator, greetings. Remember the Tilly Teller introduced in Atlanta in the mid-'80s? So ironic. I had a whole weekend to withdraw from my account with the funds available for the whole weekend. Good luck with your currency masters and the whole central banking system. Yep. Fernaviz, greetings. Peak content. Thank you for doing what you're doing. First time commenting live. Well, thank you for joining us. Judeo-Christian faith. Yeah. Well, like it or not, man, truly a heretic if you actually believe in the rapture crap. No, it's happening. I'm sorry, you will actually find yourself bowing to Jesus one day or another. You better hope that you do it willingly before he comes back. Otherwise, it's going to be a quick bow and an eternity in hell. Sorry. Let's see. Getting weird these days. All right. When the left say that everyone I don't agree with, the right winger guy says everyone I don't agree with, viewer. All right. AI could cause the economical crisis, and that could cause a huge amount of hunger and suffering. Humanity wouldn't be extinct, but that isn't a good thing to happen. Yeah, that's the point. That's where I think that article was definitely too short-sighted there. Left wing, right wing really leads to a sick bird. Amen to that. I don't think AI will be like an intelligence. They'll try to kill us, but rather dumb people down, implementing politics based on AI information. Absolutely. Yep. Let's see if there's any climate change. It's not man-made, but from external factors. Yeah, I mean, there's a little bit here and there that certainly we can say is man-made, but nothing that rises to that level of that. So we got 50 watching on Ztubies. I think we peaked out a little over 60 there. Greetings over there. The Anchorage is over there. Night of Light, hello. War Thunder, good evening to you. No one that says greetings. Hello to you. Hate to steal your thunder, but spoiler alert, the answer is yes. All right. All right, get into the chopper. Get to the chopper. Get to the chopper. All right. If only we let it, humans can kill at any time. No power to the AI data centers. Let's see. AI is not the end of the world. They are our masters. Yep. Unless God it deems otherwise. Better gaze to the unearthing minerals for our new AI masters. That's right. Living, breathing cyclones. Soon enough. Elon has already had his robots coming out. Taking skin jobs, right. The ones from Musk will be 30K to 50K a pop from what I've seen. Resistance is futile. You will be assimilated. Resistance is futile. I'm on antibiotics for my tooth, but otherwise good. All right. Well, hope you're doing it better soon. Personally, I think robots from Elon can be a good thing for the healthcare industry as our population ages. That's a possibility. Just relax, watching the Linux community go crazy about wokesters. Yeah, I was reading some of the GNOME posts. I was considering doing something related to GNOME. I'm looking at it going, these people are insane. Like, these people are just crazy. What is wrong with the people at GNOME? I mean, really? For his foot, at least I can say I can stand and walk a little bit. I don't want a robot suffering a glitch or EMP death in the middle of surgery. Yeah. I don't want them dropping any babies on their heads. Yep. Say from personal experience, I've had enough of healthcare workers for basically taking the task of the elderly. Hello, Commodore fan. Greetings, KO210. Your number has been called. War Thunder Starlink is great, my personal experience, but not for Switch Linux's power restrictions. Yeah, I'm hoping that the Mini is a little bit better, and I'm looking at other means of keeping it all up and running and charged as well. So we got some good stuff coming up. Luis says, hello. All right, we're going to pause here, jump back on over to our main comment. That's our 5-minute comment break. We will wrap up the rest of the comments at the end. Of course, you can support the channel also with super chats. I think YouTube and Rumble takes super chats right now. So if you want to help support the channel over there, we can. We'll read any comments that you have at the end. But let's go ahead and get on to our QuickLines. First up with QuickLines, we are jumping on over to Linux. SteamOS 3.7 brings Valve Gaming OS and other handhelds to generic AMD PCs. So this is actually an interesting one. If you have some of these older systems laying around, the Lenovo Go, Go S, the Asus ROG Ally, you can now officially install Steam on those. So this also is actually, I saw some videos here that SteamOS seriously outperforms Windows 10 on handhelds. Or Windows, is it Windows 10 or Windows 11? Windows, whatever that crap is on handhelds. Steam, way better. All right. SteamOS release finally adds official support for some PC hardware. So they didn't release it for all PC hardware like they did with the first version that didn't actually really take off. They limit it to mostly AMD hardware because they could get it to work the best and without having overbloat and having to work through tons and tons of extra bug issues. So if you do have AMD hardware and you want to test out SteamOS, it is now available. So Valve mentioned certain specific handhelds as having either official or improved support, including Asus ROG Ally, Lenovo Legion Go, and Lenovo Legion Go S. Includes directions for configuring the original Legion Go and ROG Ally for SteamOS installation. They said only Steam Deck and Legion Go S have fully baked Steam support. Other ones will work. You can try it on your hardware. Valve's 2 hard and fast requirements are AMD hardware and NVMe SSD. So as long as you have those two, you can give it a go. So the computers in the version of Steam mostly flopped with the older versions of SteamOS, mostly because they ran only a small subset of games that natively support Linux. They wanted to fix that by making sure they had a fully supported system, and that's actually why it is going to be supported just on a more limited hardware. So it's not like your main Linux distributions, which will support pretty much all the hardware out there. It's actually is going to be a little bit better there. So. By focusing on the game compatibility problem first and leading its way with category-defining hardware, Valve has actually built a much stronger foundation for the current version of SteamOS than it did originally. And Valve says that despite the presence of desktop mode, the user should not consider SteamOS as a replacement for the desktop, but certain kinds of systems that are primarily used as gaming PCs, SteamOS is indeed a real contender. All right. So there is what Steam is up to. Live facial recognition cameras may soon become commonplace as computer use, police use soar. This is over in the UK, and they said that the number of facial scans doubles every year. Last year, it got up to 5 million faces were scanned by EU police as they were out just meandering around the country there. So. Major funding is being allocated and hardware being bought, while the British state is also looking to enable police forces to more easily access the full spread of its image stores, including passport and immigration databases for retrospective facial recognition searches. Live facial recognition involves matching the faces caught on surveillance camera footage against a police watch list in real time, in which campaigners liken to continual fingerprinting of members of the public as they go about their daily lives. All right, so campaigners claim the police have been allowed to self-regulate their use of technology. Officers have in the past used a setting that was subsequently shown as to disproportionately misidentify Black people. That's always been a problem with it. Facial recognition cameras were first trialed in London and South Wales from 2016, but the speed at which police forces are rolling out the technology has accelerated over the past 12 months. So 4.7 million faces with live facial recognition last year. They also have a roving unit of 10 live facial recognition vans that can be sent anywhere, made available within days. They say more than 1,000 facial recognition searches using UK passport databases were carried out in the last 2 years, and officers are increasingly searching for matches on Home Office immigration database with requests of up to 110. So kind of think about RoboCop, right? And particularly the remake, the recent remake of RoboCop. And, remember, he goes out there and there's this guy with an active warning standing right next to a police officer who didn't know about the guy, but RoboCop's facial recognition spotted him immediately and arrested him on the spot. So the thing about this is that that is, it's good to get the criminal off the street. The question, though, becomes at what cost? Because you're doing all this facial recognition, and you can effectively keep databases of who is where in real time. And I'm sorry, that's just this police state that just assumes everybody is guilty rather than doing good old-fashioned police work. Now, there's some potential positives of all these. So this week, a registered CSAM offender, 73 from Lewisham, was jailed for 2 years after he was caught alone with a 6-year-old girl by live facial recognition camera. He had previously served 9 years for 21 offenses against children. Of those arrested, 58 were registered offenders in a serious breach of their conditions, and 38 have been charged. So it is obviously getting some of the worst criminals off the streets. The question, though, is at what cost? Are there not other and better ways of doing such things? Are there not other ways you can find these people without resorting to a full-fledged mass of police state stuff? Because this is also a country that's getting insane. There's people in UK running around stabbing people to death, and they don't want to do anything, but actually end up just jailing somebody for a mean tweet on the internet. I mean, this is crazy. This is a little bit too much power for a country like this. A spokesperson for the Information Commissioner's Office said police use facial recognition technology can keep our community safe, but it must be used fair and proportionate. We're working with police forces to ensure the technology is effective and people's rights are protected. Our conversations with the Home Office on the use of passport database are ongoing and form part of this work. So, yeah, they're using the passport databases and things. So if you as a UK or a USA or some other citizen are traveling to the UK and you got your passport there because you kind of need it now, well, guess what, folks? Guess what? You are now being actively scanned against your passport photos. Texas signs a law, signs the online safety bill. This is a dangerous one. This one here, it opens the door for being able to ask for IDs on anybody's accounts. So they signed into law the online safety bill that would require Apple and Google's app stores to verify the age of the users and obtain approval from parents before minors download or make in-app purchases. Obviously, there is good here to keep the kids from racking up $7,000 in credit card charges on pizza, or that one case, what was it, suckers, right? Kid ordered like thousands and thousands of suckers. They end up like stacking up all over the place, and it turned out that it was a fun humanity story because Amazon took a few of them back. But she ended up selling them at cost to all sorts of banks and other institutions in town that would usually give away suckers to kids anyway. And so, yeah, we'll take some. Sure. Always have a few laying around, right? So it would end up being a good feel-good story in the end, but you don't want to get into the situation where your kid orders 7,000 suckers. All of a sudden, 7,000 suckers show up on your porch. You realize that your kid ordered it on your credit card, attach your Apple, and you say, I really am a sucker, aren't I? Yes, I am. All right. So that's really what was going on here. Now, the danger here, of course, is now anytime Google or Apple gets an alleged thought you might not be of age, they might prompt you to provide an ID or prove that you are of age prior to being able to use the service anymore. And this opens the door for Google and Apple to start being forced by the state of Texas to hand over your ID to simply use a phone app. Now, it is tied specifically right now to the app purchases. So if you're on Android, download the F-Droid or Aurora store because you can get these without a Google account logged in. Have fun, guys. They're literally making the internet worse. How wonderful. You morons up in Texas. Think about these things. These people do not know how technology works. With Apple in particular saying the implementation of such a bill could pose a threat to user privacy. Yes, it could, because once they're flagged, in fact, one of our supporters was telling us the other day that they determined that the kid's account was actually a kid's account. Like, hey, we kind of need to know your ID here. Like, no, not happening. You know, then they have ways of determining. And I think that what they're going to do is they're going to be over aggressive in asking for IDs in response to this bill, because it's better to have the ID and not need it than to be sued by the state and them saying, well, you know, our systems indicated they were probably of age. You know, in my case, fortunately, all the Google accounts I think I've had for at least 15 to 20 years. So, you know, good news in that, I guess. I don't know. Russia is going to enforce a location tracking app on all foreigners to Moscow. So if you show up in Moscow, you have to install this app on your phone. Of course, what do you do if you're not using a smartphone? Go to the gulag, my friend. Russian government introduced a new law that makes installing a tracking app mandatory for all foreign nationals in Moscow, in the Moscow region. It's a measure to tackle migrant crimes. Good thing we're not the only ones suffering from that. It does, of course, exclude, you know, diplomats, things like that. But the app will require your residence location, your fingerprint, your face photograph, and real-time geolocation monitoring. If migrants change their actual place of residence, they will be required to inform the Ministry of Internal Affairs within 3 working days. Foreigners attempting to avoid their obligation in relation to new law will be added to a registry of monitored individuals and deported from Russia. Or maybe imported into a gulag. I don't know. There is a Russian lawyer that proposed it violates Article 23, as in 24 of the Russian Constitution, guaranteeing the right to privacy. But the question is, these are not Russian nationals. It's the same thing with immigrants here in the United States. Do they have the same constitutional rights? The Constitution of the United States applies to United States citizens. The Constitution of the United States does not apply to illegal foreigners. And these aren't necessarily illegal foreigners, but they are certainly foreigners. Are the foreigners in the state of Russia covered under the Russian Constitution? That's a legitimate question to ask. And I don't know the answer to it. Believe it or not, I've never read the Russian Constitution. So, you know, it's all Russian to me. I looked at it once. It was a very fast look. I was rushing through it. The proposal hasn't reached the final form yet, and the specifics, like what happens in the case of a device theft, loss, or similar technical or practical obstacles, need to be addressed. Like, you know, what happens when you don't have a smartphone? Well, clearly you're lying. So off to the gulag you go. Everyone has a smartphone, you know. AI may already be shrinking entry-level jobs in tech. We've already covered this quite a bit in the past, but there were some thoughts in this article that really jived with me, so I wanted to cover them briefly here. A recent survey from the World Economic Forum, that's right, the beast itself, found that 40% of employers intend to cut staff where AI can automate the tasks. This is your agentic AI. When analyzing hiring trends, Signal Fire noticed tech companies recruited fewer recent college graduates in 2024 than they did in 2023. Meanwhile, tech companies, especially the top 15, ramped up their hiring of experienced professionals. Okay, so entry-level jobs are susceptible to automation because they often involve routine, low-risk tasks that generative AI handles well. The problem I have here is that when a person who's far more experienced gets experience by doing the low-level work. It is doing the low-level work that gives you all the experience that you need. So the problem here is that right now we are not bringing on the low-level people. We will not have enough people to fill the higher-level people jobs when those guys have to retire or quit or get another job or, you know, have a heart attack and die or something in the middle. Nobody's going to come up behind them with the experience to actually do the things that are needed to do at this point in time. So it raises a lot of serious and fundamental questions about just about the use of AI for these jobs, not to mention the fact that all these people are coming out of college, promised a good job, can't find a job, and we end up with a whole lot more people, young people who they don't have jobs anymore. They're not gaining the experience. They will not be working in their field of specialty. And we are going to have a major, major employment problem down the road when we need to hire experienced workers and there aren't any experienced workers because we never let the inexperienced workers become experienced. Rogo's tool said they can do almost all the work I did in the analysis of any of those companies. Strangle said on stage the Newcomers Financial Technology Summit last week, we can put together the materials, diligence, the company, and look through their financials. Basically, this guy's talking about an AI startup called Rogu, and he worked with basically look over contracts and mergers for pharmaceutical companies. And what he just kind of looked at and said is, hey, I can automate all these various tasks. So let's go ahead and do that. Now, what happens when you need to handle one of those black swan events that AI is really bad at? Well, good luck with that one. Although AI's threat to low-skilled jobs is real, tech companies' need for experienced professionals is rising. That's the problem. So, and this is the part that I really liked about the article. This is one that jives me down here. A frustrating paradox emerges for recent graduates. They can't get hired without experience, but they can't get experience without being hired. Well, this dilemma is not new. Signal Fire's people and talented partner says it is considerably exasperated by AI. This is a serious problem. You used to be able to get out of college and find some remedial level job. You know, you'd get out of your computer science and you look for somebody that's like, hey, I need a low level guy to babysit a bunch of WordPress sites. That's a low-level job. It's a good low-level job. For the most part, you're going to have a whole bunch of boring WordPress sites. You're going to have some updates. You're going to have 1 in 100 is going to fail. You're going to have to learn how to find that lockdb file and get rid of it and, kick off the maintenance mode back into the regular. You're going to have to, maybe do a manual upgrade at some point in time. You're going to learn all these little skills about managing a WordPress site in the midst of doing all this kind of stuff. But it's going to be that's going to give you that experience to move up and go, okay, we now have an opening for a WordPress developer now. Okay, you've been doing a great job at entry level. Let's move you up into a higher level position where you're going to be doing more development now and less babysitting the sites. So as you're working on development, you'll be able to spot some of those things a lot quicker. You're a much more experienced employee. Well, if you're just handing over the simple deployment of all of those WordPress sites to the AI who can most likely manage a lot of those tasks, we have a fundamental problem when you need a new WordPress developer and the AI is about as incompetent as the idiocracy lawyer at doing that type of task. And that's the problem we're handing over to AI. Sam Altman's newest venture has built a robot to decide if you're a human. This is another one of those guys, helping in with that bunker, getting back to that bunker situation. You unleash this problem on the world. Maybe you need to sit down and shut up. So this is the Tools for Humanity's world system. It's a biometric startup that's going to basically scan you and determine if you are a real human being. Now, the idea is because there's so much spam traffic on the internet because of AI. Thank you, founder of AI. So much spam traffic that we're going to have to verify that the various traffic is actually a human. The problem I have with this is that in this promo that they're doing here, I'm going to mute this. I don't know if that's music there. Look at this promo that they're doing. Introduce Orb. What do you notice about all these things? Okay. Here is her Orb device who's going to scan this person to see if he's real. He's standing in front of you. He's real, for crying out loud. Isn't this interesting? They're saying this is to solve the problem of AI bots on the internet. However, you still need to go around the world and scan the real world people to verify their digital ID. I'm sorry, this Orb technology, if this is not the mark of the beast, this is the precursor to the mark of the beast. Don't do it, folks. Don't do it. Look at this crap. Mini Orb looks like a between a futuristic smartphone camera and a Black Mirror prop. It scans your iris to confirm your humanity. If you have to scan my iris, I'm a human. What is this? A replicant? Are you scanning for replicants? Is Blade Runner here? Do I have a robot that is out to assassinate me? I'm sorry. And by the way, this whole thing this is going to be the last thing to verify here until it's cracked too. In fact, one of my short stories, I think it was this year. I think it's the one that's not in Code Red. One of my short stories recently went on this technology, by the way. And I showed you a lot of the holes in that technology. That was one of our short stories. It's available over on Patreon and Locals and Subscribestar if you're on over there. Let's see. So the blockchain stores an identity token that says this person is real and has irises to prove it. Poor blind people that don't have eyes. They're just not real. They don't have an iris to prove it. All right. Sam Altman and the company claim that the lack of trust is one of the most urgent crises of the modern internet. Unspoken is Altman and OpenAI's contribution to the world where AI can generate books, deepfake voices, and even realistically awful dating profiles with ease. So Visa is working with World on a debit card connecting to the World app. Lord help us. And Match Group is testing the technology in Japan to verify that the people you see in your dating app are both human and adult. Razer is also exploring how to use World IDs. No, Razer, don't do it. Don't do it. Razer, you failed us. Exploring how they can use World IDs to weed out bots from multiplayer sessions. After scanning your eye, Orb will provide you with a cryptographic identity to use for shopping, flirting, and gaming with other humans. See, look at this. You have to use this thing in order to get into society. I'm not making this stuff up of this being the mark of the beast, folks. Company plans to roll out 7,500 Orb Mini devices across the U.S. by the end of the year, and you'll find them at the Pop-Ups partner company locations and anywhere else they can get a kiosk to scan your face. Please put your right hand here and your forehead here. All right. Company collecting and storing biometric data for millions of people sounds problematic. Tools for Humanity says it has covered it all with anonymized data. Of course it has. Verified human internet is a nice idea, but there is a lot of questions about what it means to prove you're real in a world where realism is being suspiciously easy to fake. Very interesting. So, yeah. Sam Altman created this problem. Maybe Sam Altman should be removed from the potential possibility of attempting to solve it. Just a thought. I have a great idea. You unleashed a hellstorm on our world. I have a great idea to solve that. No. I don't want any more of your great ideas, Sam Altman. Take your money, go buy an island, and disappear. All right, done. All right, moving on. Using blob URLs to bypass SEG and evade analysis. This is very much like the info stealer scam. What they're using here is a blob URI is a way that you can load temporary data into the web browser that is not available anywhere else, including Microsoft Defender or any other virus scanner or any other site that's going to be looking for malware. So the way these actually work is they're starting with a phishing email, and you click on the phishing email, but the phishing email looks legitimate because it is using a legitimate account, something like a OneDrive link, a Google Docs link, a Dropbox link, something that is a valid link which gets past the security check to look for malicious links. So these are all searched for in the modern email threat response. And so it gets past all of this, but then what happens is the link that you click, what it does is it loads in data with a blob URI. So a blob URI, or a large binary large object, is used in a web browser to work with temporary data that isolates that data from any other system. The problem is that it can do a lot of tasks inside the web browser without being actively monitored. So the blob allows you to download the information without that information being passed over to your virus scanner. And then what it does is it loads a website, which is now a credential stuffing page, also looking for your 2FA codes. So it starts with a phishing email. It goes to an SEG approved link, which is going to be like a OneDrive link or a Google Docs or Dropbox. That loads via blob URI into the intermediary page in the browser itself, that is excluded from any of your virus scanner. This ends up loading the threat HTML, and then you are going to then fill out your information, and you're going to steal it because they're popping up like, okay, this is a OneDrive. Clearly, you need to be signed in. So it pops up the basic sign-in box for OneDrive. Once you access all of the information, it then passes the information back through the blob onto the internet to steal your credentials, and it might even propose you here a 2FA challenge, which it then succeeds as well. So you have, not only did they get past your emails filtering, they've made you load it by looking like you're loading a legitimate document, and then they're stealing your credentials, and they might even steal your MFA password and be able to get in there and change your account information on you. So that's how these guys are going to work. It's a very nice new way, kind of like the hiding the info stealer in the TikTok video. That's what this is doing here. All right, so we have another deeply concerning thing from the EU. Protect EU. Protect EU is doing the opposite. What they're trying to do at Protect EU is they're trying to get a legal backdoor into an all-encrypted communications across the EU state. So inside of the strategy here, of course, to help the police and make sure nobody's doing anything bad, make sure Big Brother is always watching you, they need their police backdoor into any form of encrypted technology. So Encryption is a scrambling of data into an unreadable form to prevent unwanted access as the backbone of how services like Signal, WhatsApp, Proton Mail work, yet law enforcement has long argued this technology is an obstacle for criminal investigations. Lord forbid we secure our communications so the scammer can't actually access the data in between, right? So FBI, CSIA, and the U.S. have started encouraging citizens to switch to end-to-end encrypted services to fight back against these threats. But the EU is like, no, we want that data. So undermining encryption weakens the very foundation of secure communication systems, leaving individuals, businesses, and public institutions more vulnerable to attacks. This is a coalition against this, which is working towards it. So Protect EU comes at the first steps of the EU Commission's plan to bolster the security of the European bloc in the years to come. We do know the strategy includes finding a technical way to create encryption backdoors into software. We are deeply concerned with the Commission's continued focus on identifying ways to weaken or circumvent encryption. This undermines our own security objectives under the Protect EU strategy. So that is what the open letter has to say. So there is an open letter there. I couldn't actually highlight stuff on it. Where was it at? Okay. Can't find the open letter. It's in there somewhere. But it is signed by a number of different groups and, Proton, Mozilla, a number of other groups over there that at least many of them, maybe excluding Mozilla, care about privacy. I don't know. But with this, basically EU is trying once again to bust in and create backdoors into encryption, which basically means all these guys are going to pull out if they're forced to do it. Zoox issues a second robotaxi software recall in a month. I haven't even heard of Zoox. Apparently, this is an Amazon-owned autonomous vehicle company. They've issued its second voluntary software recall in a month following the collision between one of the robotaxis and an e-scooter in San Francisco. The company says the car was struck by the e-scooter after braking to yield at an intersection. So the problem is with some of these is they're slamming on the brakes. They're brake checking people and getting hit is what tends to happen. Las Vegas crash between a Zoox robotaxi and a passenger car that raised concerns over the self-driving software's ability to predict and the movement of other road users. E-scooters fell to the ground directly next to the vehicle. Robotaxi then began to move and stopped after completing the turn, but did not make further contact with the e-scooterist. So the robotaxi continues to move after the collision, could risk harming another road users that were involved in the crash. So it also did commit a felony, which is a hit and run. That is a felony in most places. That'll send you to jail. So it's, if you are involved in an accident, you have to stop. Robotaxi didn't stop. It kept on moving. So again, I'm going to bring this up. Before we unleash self-driving cars on the road, we have to actually know who is liable when something happens. Now, there's a fundamental problem with that in the U.S. law. And we learned about this with the Snowden breaches and stuff. A little bit before that, people were alleging that the government was monitoring a bunch of data. They take it into the court, but the court says we can't litigate anything because there's no damages, no harm, no evidence that anything is going on. You have to come back when there's evidence that something's going on. Of course, when the Snowden revelations happens, they were, very much more like, no, this is nothing to see here, nothing to see here. Yeah, nothing to see here. So the problem here is that the court of law cannot, in the United States, it cannot address a hypothetical. It cannot address what's going to happen when a self-driving car hits somebody. You have to litigate it when the self-driving car actually does hit somebody. So the problem here is that when a self-driving car without a monitoring driver in it hits somebody, we have to know who's liable. Because if I'm driving a car down the road and I hit you and you die, I am guilty of manslaughter. Well, I should be found guilty of manslaughter. And this is a sentence. Somebody goes to jail for this. Somebody died. Somebody needs to go to jail for this. We have to, as a society, demand to know if a self-driving car kills somebody, who is the person going to jail for manslaughter. You can't just, well, it's just a robot. Can't do that. Somebody has got to be accountable. Until we can point our finger and say, in the event the self-driving car kills somebody, whom is going to trial for manslaughter. It is a fundamental thing we have to know. The problem is U.S. courts do not allow us to address such a question until it actually happens, which creates many, many more messes than it possibly should. And we end our QuickLines today with an opinion piece, which is an excellent one. And I wanted to include it, particularly with the number of people coming out with, a number of people are coming out now without smartphones. And we are seeing a rise in people buying dumb phones. A friend of mine switched completely to a dumb phone and absolutely loves it. He said it got rid of all the distractions. He's way more productive. And so there's this excellent opinion piece from The Guardian, which received quotes from several different people looking at these potential scenarios as well. So he says, this person here, let's get rid of this there. So this person here says, Sophie is 12 years old when a class member sent her extreme and traumatizing videos, including an Al-Qaeda. I can't mention that on YouTube. Other stuff I can't mention on YouTube, and other stuff I'm not sure I want to mention on YouTube. So seeing all this kind of stuff, and this is one of the fundamental problems, is if you have a young child with a phone, assume your young child is going to get access to this stuff. No amount of parental filters is going to do that. I told this story before. I sat next to a young kid. He's doom scrolling through shorts on YouTube. I think it was shorts on YouTube. It's either YouTube or Instagram. It's one of the shorts ones that was perceived as not being a bad one. In a matter of 5 minutes, I saw come, not like Come With Me, but the other kind. I saw Do Something Inappropriate With Your Mother. I saw a whole number of seriously other questionable things. And this kid's parents are allegedly monitoring what's going on, at least controlling it to some degree with the apps. And all this is still the type of stuff that's coming through the parental filters. Assume your kids are going to see the worst things of all humanity, and a 12-year-old is not capable of seeing that and coming out in one piece on the other side. Her dad worked in IT, and looking back, she thinks my parents' generation simply didn't have a clue. And I think about this to one of my friends that was struggling with adult content on a smartphone. And when I set the thing up initially, I did not set it up on the internet. And I warned, I said to the kid's mother, I said, you know, he should probably not have this on the internet. He can do some couple simple, safe things. He shouldn't have general access to the internet. He shouldn't be able to install anything without you seeing what it is. Well, within inside of about a month or so, she's like, well, you can have it. I trust you. And the kid goes down a dark path. And the thing is that these generations do not have a clue. You do not have a clue what is on there. So what's happened is now at age 18, this Sophie, a student at the University of Edinburgh, says she would not allow her children to have a smartphone until they're adults. She says, as a teen, I would have been the biggest advocate on everyone having a phone, but I have 100% changed my opinion. Until you're an adult and able to recognize the many ways in which people act deviantly to advance their own interests, you should not be online. The minute there is instant messaging, I think it gets dangerous. And this is true. Now, should we regulate with the government? No. Because then we start having to show our IDs and we get rid of all semblance of any form of anonymity on the internet. And anonymity on the internet is a deeply important thing. We should not be, every single company should not have access to every single piece of information about us. We should be able to browse the internet in relative anonymity. If I want to buy something for you, I understand you need to collect some information. But if I want to look around at your posts and see what's going on, you shouldn't. You shouldn't need that. If I'm leaving nasty posts, delete the profile. I'm okay with that. Now, the question is what's a nasty post? Do we need to have some form of codified law? It must follow, must break certain laws. It must have a specific definition. It must have an appeal process. There's questions like this we need to have. But Sophie here is right. Sophie is one of many so-called digital natives who grew up skeptical of the largely unfettered access to technology they grew up with. A poll suggests that almost half of young people would rather live in a world where the internet does not exist, and a similar number would support a digital curfew, while more than 3/4 felt worse about themselves after using social media. And I have to say, I absolutely love the fact that I grew up without the internet. Now, I know some of you really young kids are out there like, no, that's not true. See, the internet was here, and you're sending me some Wikipedia article. I'm going to tell you, you are an arrogant person that does not comprehend life. Let me explain to you why. Well, yes, DARPA was working on the internet back, I think, into the 70s, maybe early 80s. The mainstream people, first and foremost, the ability of you at your house to have the internet wasn't even a thing until the early 90s. And it was outrageously expensive. Computers were outrageously expensive. And the average person didn't have them because we did not live in a society then that spoiled itself with a bunch of stuff. And it was interesting. I saw this video today from a young starting up YouTube channel in somebody in she's either in Seattle or Portland. I think it was in Seattle. And she's going over all these things like our economy's falling apart and no people aren't spending all this. And every single thing she's saying is like, you shouldn't be buying that crap anyway. See, we grew up in a time, like we grew up without cable because cable was expensive and we knew we could eat or we could have cable. But people today are so spoiled and so used to having so much stuff, all right, that they're going out and having the most expensive phone. I bought this phone for $120 and it's still perfectly good and I'll use it until it completely falls apart and dies. And I pay $180 a year for internet or for phone usage. Basic phone plan, 5 gigabyte phone plan. I don't need more than that. I don't think you need more than that either. So if I can buy once a phone for $100 and I can buy a smartphone plan for $180 a year. I mean, if you wanted more data, you go up to $250 a year. That is infinitely cheaper than the average person with like $150 a month phone bill, including financing the biggest and baddest phone you can get. We didn't spend hundreds of dollars on various subscription services. Starbucks was not a thing when I was a kid. There might have been one or two in Seattle. There might have been one or two in a couple huge cities. The first time I walked into a Starbucks was when I was visiting my friend in Sacramento in 1996. We didn't have Starbucks. I couldn't go to any coffee shop and get a frou-frou coffee. I could walk into Perkins and get a black cup of coffee for $1.50. I didn't have a place where I could go and buy a mocha latte with organic chai milk and all sorts of other crap. I don't even know what it is because it's not important. We didn't buy the latest cars. We didn't buy the biggest TVs. We didn't refresh our wardrobe every month. You see, we have been toddled into this consumerist mindset. And it all starts with these smartphones. I'm glad I grew up in an age without the internet. The internet wasn't a thing. It wasn't. Our school first got internet in, I think it was 96, 95 or 96. In fact, I think it was 96. In 95, I had study hall and we didn't have the internet. 96, I think we had one computer lab with the internet in the school. We didn't have the internet. It didn't exist. And we grew up a whole lot smarter, a whole lot better, a whole lot safer. Did some of those same things still go around? Absolutely. Some of those things did still go around. You know, the blackout challenge still went around. It wasn't nearly as widespread because 5 million teenagers didn't watch it on TikTok. It would usually boil down to the stupid idiot that smoked entirely too many magical herbs came over and introduced us to the blackout game. Very, very rare, though. This next person here, she would only let her children have a smartphone from age 17. It's not for children. It's not for people who don't have developed brains. She says, adding your parents not knowing what you're doing is not the safest thing in the world. She feels in recent years, social media has become oppressive and cannibalized by advertisements and corporations. Amen, brother. Oh, sister. Amen, sister. Preach it, sister. Preach it, sister. Suddenly, instead of my friends, my phone was filled with tiny people shouting at me, telling me to do everything is wrong. Kind of like me. Y'all are sitting here watching. Okay, I feel offended at this point here. Suddenly, instead of my friends, my phone was filled with tiny people shouting at me, telling me everything I do is wrong. Okay, stop preaching it. Stop preaching it, lady. I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And then they begged me to buy something from them. Have a look at my page there, switchedtolinux.com/support. Anyway. Moving on. I'm getting convicted on this one. All right. Tobias from Austria, 20 years old, receives his first smartphone at age 11 or 12. Noticed a change in the classmates. You just sat down and started scrolling. You didn't really talk to the person one row behind you. You texted them. Although his school had a policy to keep phones turned off, the teacher soon gave up on enforcing it. They were just buzzing and there were notification sounds all the time, he said. I found myself in moments of despair watching short video content for 2 to 3 hours straight, wondering, wow, that went fast. I have no time left for the things I actually do. That is a basic addiction. So this is a very nice article on the warnings about it. Those that have grown up inside the technology, fortunately, are wanting to keep the technology away from their kids. I think, though, sadly, most of them will not be able to keep their technology away from their kids. And the reason they're not going to be able to keep the technology away from their kids is because they themselves are now too addicted and think that they're adults, they can use it, but they're still too addicted to it, and they're going to pass that on because kids will do what you do, not what you say. And that's the serious problem. So those people, I think that they should get off of their smartphones altogether if they have a problem with it. I don't have a problem with mine. I know other people like that. Mine is simply a tool. In fact, oftentimes I forget where it's even at because it's like I just don't pick it up enough. So I'm clearly not addicted to my smartphone. But I have friends that have been, and the best thing for them is to just do away with the smartphone altogether. So there is our QuickLines. We're going to wrap up with just a little bit of SillyVille here. So, of course, first in SillyVille, 3.5 years, Notepad.exe has gone from barely maintained to now it writes everything for you. How wonderful. The sad push of AI is now infiltrated into that simple Notepad so that now you boot up Notepad to do some basic simple thing and it wants to start writing everything for you. It's like, go the hell away, Microsoft AI. I don't want you infiltrating every part of my system. That's kind of one of the reasons I'm using Linux these days, right? So they began testing the update, allowing users to rewrite or summarize text in Notepad using generative AI. Another preview update today takes one step further, allowing you to write AI-generated text from scratch with basic instructions. The feature called Write to differentiate it from the earlier Rewrite. How wonderful. So now we are going from systems that have been barely maintained to, hey, AI, let's make this cram into everywhere, including Notepad. How wonderful. All right, the Google co-founder claims that AI works better when you threaten it with physical violence. So now AI is going to turn us into wife beaters? Does it come with those wife beater shirts? Do I have to wear one of those wife beater shirts when I talk to my AI now? I'm curious about this. So the co-founder says that threatening AI makes it better. And actually some guys on our supporter line have actually confirmed. Kind of frightening. Generative AI waves taking the world by storm, revolutioning all aspects of our lives, including medicine, entertainment, computing, and education. AI models get the job done mostly where the instances, there are instances where they tend to hallucinate or veer off the guardrails, generating outright wrong responses and queries. That's kind of true. But the reality is they found out that if you yell at it a little bit more, let's see, report revealed that top complaint lodged by users at Microsoft AI division, Copilot isn't as good as ChatGPT. However, tech giant dismissed the claim, shifting blame to poor prompt engineers. Okay. You're just not using it as intended, Microsoft said. Company since launched Copilot Academy to help equip users with the best practices. Wonderful. Interestingly, Google co-founder Sergey Brin shared an interesting approach on how to get the most out of AI-powered chatbots during a recent episode of All in One. You know, it's a weird thing. It's like we don't circulate this too much in the AI community, but not just our models, all models, they tend to do better if you threaten them, like with physical violence. Yeah. So here's another danger of this, of course. If you start speaking to your AI like that, you might very well start speaking to other people in your life like that. That's fascinating. Well, enough of all this AI nonsense. Let's go on to something serious, like the Wienermobile race. That's right, folks. The Oscar Mayer Wienermobiles just raced to see which one is the fastest. How has this never happened before? So here is the Oscar Mayer Weenie 500. Once again, we're going to turn off the sound there in case there's anything over there. But this lady's just talking about the weenies. And here is the weenie race. The Wienermobiles are off, folks. While this video is playing, I'm going to tell you a really fascinating story. I have a book, Synaptergy. So I'm going to be the small person on your phone screen telling you to go buy my book, Synaptergy. Well, the photo shoot for Synaptergy was done at the quad at Penn State University. That building actually in the background on the right of the cover is actually the life sciences building that I got my PhD at. That's the building I worked at. That quad was recently put in there. So when I actually went up to first do the photo shoots, we did 2 photo shoots. The first time I did it and edited somebody in there. The second time I actually had a model volunteer to go up and actually take the shot. The first time I go up there to take the shots for Synaptergy, I take the shots and the Wienermobile was on the road behind the buildings. So, I had to actually edit it out of the original cover of Synaptergy. So I actually, just as fun, I still have a book cover of Synaptergy with a Wienermobile in the background. And the Wienermobile was actually in the background of the photo shoot when I took the photo for the cover of Synaptergy. So anyway, but here is the Wienermobiles are racing. They're just kind of going around the line here. Of course, you can go watch the whole video yourself because all of my video links are in the description down there. Just find the one link over on the webpage and that'll be over there. So there you have it, guys. And they ended this article with, let's see, get in, loser. We're going hot dogging. All right. They ended with the best dad joke ever. In the Weenie 500, everyone is a wiener. All right, guys, there is our SillyVille for today. Of course, if you want to help support the channel, switchedtolinux.com/support. You can jump on over there and help support the channel. With that, we are going to jump on over and go and see our kitty cats. We are going to do our... jump on over to feed the beasts. We got one beast over there that's looking to get fed. We'll see if I can round up the second one. Hey, kitty, you want some kitty treats? You want some kitty treats? Come on, kitty. Come here, kitty. Come here, buddy. Kitty, kitty. Come here, buddy. Come on. Come here. Come here. All right, well, the beasts having been fed, let's go ahead and wrap up over here with some comments. Let me actually pop out the YouTube comments if I can. I don't know if I want to do that. I might actually, that might cause me some issues there. Anyway, let's come back over here and let's have a look at some comments. All right, picking up where we left off on Z2Bs. Commodore fan had to do a factory reset on the T-Mobile gateway 3 times going out this weekend. Hopefully swap it out for one with antenna ports. There you go. All right. Yep, a YouTube Premium family with my personal work and my mother's account, so we get no ads. There you go. Don't blame ya. Almost to the point with YouTube TV. Let's see. But remember, owned credit union. No way I'll switch unless they go under. Yep. Bank is local. I can call, walk up, get a real human, even in multiple nearby states. Whoa. Small town bank that's been in business 100 years. Turbo hours for workers, but I'm retired, so not a big deal to me. There you go. All right. Credit union. Let's see. They have nights where members get discounts on tickets. Should I take it? I should take advantage of it. There you go. One bank is very local. You can only get it to local. The other, let's see, the other I use has locations available around the country for the most part. Talk about a company passing the buck to not take the L. Yep. Check my accounts every couple days. Did you hear that Florida legalized gold and silver legal tender? Gold is biblical money. That's a good move. That's neat. No, I didn't hear that. That's pretty cool. Get a text for every transaction, so I know almost instantly when something happens. And slowly and painfully setting up 2FA on as many accounts of mine as I deem important. Also use different usernames for every account, assuming usernames are available rather than email login. Might have Tom Beat as including my Android tablet. The phone, I have 9 devices. Yep. I don't know. Let's see. Number of computers. Okay, number of computers that I use share logins with. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think I only have 6 that I share logins with, but that's because I don't do any logins on the phones. So yeah, you might have me beat if we're counting that. Now, if we're counting computers total, I have like 10 computers built into this van. So I don't know. Depends on what we're counting. Purge a bunch of hardware out of my collection, but I'm pretty sure it's so close to 30 machines I manage. Yeah. Is this pre-recorded? No, this is not pre-recorded. Live stream recorded. He'd be doing a video premiere. Yep. Be shocked when you discover the act of lying. Stream is live. Yep. Tom doesn't lie. That's right. Polymatrix, greetings. Here's one for the AI. My wife likes Toms of Maine. LOL. I know, right? So do I. That's good stuff. It's my toothpaste after all, you know. To put it together when I was up in Maine. All right, you know, people are bad enough agents at times. Why would you want an AI to be one? Yeah. Not perfect, born sinner, does lie. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I'm a sinner. Y'all have to deal with that. Sorry. Salt is made of pepper and pepper is made of salt. What? All right. No, I don't lie about being live. Maybe. AI will return us to the opening scene in 2001 Space Odyssey. Yeah. You hear of the Forbidden Project. Run. If he's not reacting to the chat, this might as well be recorded. Well, Rixie, I mean, I did say at the beginning I will get to the chat in the middle of the show. So anyway, wait for it. It's coming up next. Not reacting to chat because he's doing the news. Yeah, where all of the Enviro wackos should be complaining about AI energy use. Yeah, I know, right? Okay. College, you know chemistry? What college courses do you know to make pharmaceuticals? Wait, what? What college you know chemistry? What college courses do you know should I take to make pharmaceuticals at home? You should not make pharmaceuticals at home. If you need to ask a YouTuber what college courses to take pharmaceuticals at home, I'm just going to tell you, go be a chem major. All right, new format, been active a few weeks now. Let's see. Yeah. Is there a nice project that makes it possible to use 3D hand scanners under Linux? What do you mean by a 3D hand scanner? I have no idea what you're talking about. Google gives you money for the advertisements I saw. Yes, I do get paid from Google ads. Colossus, the Forbidden Project. Okay, AI warp. Let's see. Medication is not legal like Big Pharma. Yeah. Use Brave browser. I watch live stream YouTube app if I chat. And scary is people born today and kids in elementary school will know nothing except how to use AI to do things for them. Yeah, that is the terrifying thing. Yep. Okay. So be fighting robot Mega Man. There you go. Yeah. Pause the stream and come back to watch. It'll still be up for a while. Yes. Okay, let's see. I don't see fancy predictive text becoming conscious. Yeah. 140,000 years ago, the seas are 110 feet below than they are today. And we're worried about 4 feet. I don't even know if that's, I don't even think that's a fact. First and foremost, I don't even believe the earth is 140,000 years old. Now, here's actually some evidence why I don't think this is true. There is, for example, in Belfast, Maine, there is on the walk out there was a major flood back in the 1970s, I think, and it caused flood water to come up over the landmass, like the ocean invaded into the city a little bit. And it was like the largest flood on history, and I forget what exactly it was caused by. But that had happened, and then of course it receded back down, and then they put up these things like, this is where the water level is in now, and this is where it's going to be at in like 2010. This is and there's all these outrageous things about where the water level is going to be at, and it's all doom and gloom, and we're all going to die. And the reality is, if you're actually looking at the actual data, the water levels have not changed at all. They put these things up like 20 years ago, basically saying, by now the water's going to be here. And you look at it, it's like, it still hasn't moved. Okay. Literally. The waters are not rising. Okay. I have sat on the ocean coasts in several places across this country. Okay. If you are new to the channel, I'm a van lifer. I have been all across the Western coast. I have been across the Gulf of, is it called America now? I don't know. The Gulf of whatever's down there, down through the Florida stuff, up on the beaches on the east, up into Maine. The coolest is the Bay of Fundy, which has the largest tide change in the world. I actually sat there for 10 minutes, timed it 10 minutes, and watched the tide change 8 inches, sitting there watching the tide change. It was fascinating to see. Totally fascinating. But the point is, I've seen a lot of these, the climate's going to end the world and all this kind of stuff. I've seen that so many times, and they all have markers and they're all dated, and none of the water levels have moved from when those dated markers have been put up. It's crazy. It's crazy. Go to Belfast, Maine. You'll see it. I have pictures of it. All right. Is there a nice project that makes it possible? Okay, I did that already. I have no idea where I'm at. YouTube did that weird thing again. There we are. That's right. It's the same person asking the same question over and over. All right, let's see. Old AMD PC generic. Yeah. If it's that old, it may not work. You probably need something remotely monitoring. Just trying to save money by asking Tom what college classes teach people to become scientists. Oh, which college classes teach you to become scientists? I mean, you'd be doing like okay, just to get into the technicals here, the science of making pharmaceuticals is chemical engineering is what you'd want to take. So that's generally a graduate level stuff. So there's no college courses on it. You would either do something closer to a bioengineering, you would do physical chemistry, or you would do organic chemistry as a minor. You do one of those, and then you would move from there into a graduate school that has chemical engineering as a graduate level program. What you could do as a master's, or more likely you'd do that as a PhD. So it'd be chemical engineering is the one you'd be looking for. And I got something weird going on with my microphone, so give me a second there to fix that. I'm sorry, I should have muted that before I did that, but my apologies. So anyway. Yeah, chemical engineering, graduate level stuff. Is Lutra still a thing? I believe it is. I'm not a gamer. I have no idea. Okay. Big Brother loves us. I don't think so. Yeah, come on. Big Brother loves you so much he likes watching you all the time. SteamOS needs an NVMe SSD and a main boot drive, but on supported handhelds. There you go. Possible for KeePass XC to use the login information to open websites with... Wait. Is it possible for KeePass XC to use the login information to open the website with the credentials? You can set it to auto... Okay, there's a couple answers to this question. You can set it to automatically log into websites when you land on the page, but they don't recommend you doing that. There is a warning about it in the documentation and on the toggle button, but there is a way. The way you set it up the best is have the login page as the URL in your password manager, have the username, has the password, use the browser integration plugin and enable the browser integration in the KeePassXC file itself in the settings for the file. And then when you land on a web page that has the a password for that site in there, then you'll have a green KeePass button on the login button. Hit that button, it will automatically fill it in, and then you can hit the enter button to go into the site. I think that's what you're asking for. So yes, you can do that. There is a way to do it automatically, but they do not recommend doing that. United with whom? Themselves. I don't know. Forcing IDs would be the best way to kill off the user base. But would they even remove bots? I doubt it. ID is nothing. Timmy will just steal his parents' ID to get around it. Yeah. Is that the same law that threatens to ban anime and manga in Texas? I don't think it is. Problem is ID on Amazon is automatic, just like a credit card. I've never had my ID on Amazon. As your Christian channel is running, I assume it is preloaded. Yes, there is a premiere running at 9 on the Christian channel on Thursdays. I should really change that to another day. But I'm just going to keep it like that, at least until we finish Zechariah. That's Zechariah 14, 1 through 8. We'll finish Zechariah next time. Hopefully that's next week, if not in 2 weeks from now. I don't know. I might keep it because we're doing Malachi next. I might just finish Malachi on the Thursday schedule and then move it somewhere else. Let's see. I have no plans to go to Russia anytime soon. Ditto. Yep. Chill for U.S. Forceful future. Let's see. Barely handle the country anymore. Anything WF cannot be trusted. Yeah. Humanity subject to replacement. Yeah. Breath decontaminated air. Use Linux. Support with money. Open source and free software teams. Yep. A lot of these sorts of widespread laws banning stuff should be illegal to put in place like that. Also, shouldn't be government's job to be your parent. Yeah, amen to that. Yeah. We're also getting to the point where everything in the world they expect us to have like a Facebook account for. But if Facebook wants my ID, it ain't happening. I mean, I don't have Facebook anyway, so. No, you can't scan my iris, you know. What was that phrase? In the world of the blind, the one-eyed man is king, right? Does this have to do with surfing the net? Wait, what? We need to tell the cops what we're thinking about a turtle flipped on his back baking in the sun. Wait. Some Pokemon discussion over there. Until you start talking Pokemon, I'm going to play a Black Lotus and drop a bunch of script sprites. Deal with it. Right now, they're talking about the data centers, which is probably a good place to start. Still get government regulation no matter what it gets beyond a small group. Let's see. Self-driving is dangerous, cannot replace humans. Yep. Aaron says otherwise is an invested interest or is plain stupid. There you go. Yep. Okay. Forgot there's a live stream today. Yep. Yep, we're on Thursdays. Change those alarms, folks. We're on Thursdays now. Okay. Phone is for communication, not playing games. My policy. Yep. Do you have any other parenting tips? I hear that Tor browser has removed a feature that compromised the user through JavaScript. I'll find the video. Oh, yeah. Yeah, if you can find that for me. I didn't hear about it, but I haven't gone over and looked at Tor updates lately. So, Google messaging being end-to-end encrypted. Horrible idea. Basically, while they say it's all private, I think we've seen enough evidence to suggest that Google can actually see or screen the messages as they go through, especially since they're not working with any third parties. Basically, every phone is now moving specifically to the Google Messenger, forcing every text message on Android kind of going through the Google servers. And I'm not sure I like that. That's a little on the terrifying end. Already networks that don't connect to ClearNet at all. Yep. Those would be the Onion networks. Half my life before the internet became available, I'm now starting to plan for not having the internet in the future. It's a sewer. Most of the denizens are turds. Yeah, that's the thing, and that's the interesting dilemma with Starlink. I'm trying to get my life to the point where I'm on the internet a little bit less. Like this week, I've been experimenting with turning off the computer for a few hours in the middle of the day, and it's been really nice. It really has been. But I'm looking everything over going, you know what? The reason for doing the Starlink is there's times I need to be on the internet, but if I'm forced to be around cellular towers, especially one of the places I really want to visit this year, I know there's like a 50-mile area where there's no cell signals. And so having the money available, I was like, let's pick up the mini Starlink dish because it opens up some more possibilities. Now, is it universal? No. Like, I can't use it in most places in Pennsylvania. There's just too many trees around here. And if there's not trees, it's a city. And there's cell signals. Now, there's actually some places around here I want to test it because, curiously, there's a park that is in the city that has really bad internet, but it's my favorite park to walk. So I'd like to get the Starlink set up and get it in there and test that out in the park and see how well Starlink does compared to cellular in the park. It's kind of neat, but there are still a lot of trees in that park too. So I may not be able to do it as well there either. So it's an interesting thought process, but as I go west where there's not trees or other obstructions, it will work a whole lot better in the West Coast than it will in the East. So there, whatever that's worth, right? Microsoft AI Clippy Reborn. Do not talk such trash about Clippy. Hey. Clippy gave me nightmares back in the day. That's a hot dog race. That's right. OBS Studio now supports multi-track. There you go. Let's see. Kitties. Tom built himself an FBI van. Yes, I did. Seen the door. Hello, Fresh Vintage. Getting here late. Yeah, you're getting here really late. Greetings. Ask Tom about what he calls the Wi-Fi. Oh, yeah. It was funny when I was in a little city in Georgia. I just came off of, I think I came out of Tennessee, jumped into Georgia, stopped at a Walmart down there to resupply, and there I am with the FBI surveillance van. And I park, and there's another van. I see them over there. Look, check my internet access, and I have there's a CIA van. Like, great. Now we have the FBI van and the CIA van both hanging out in the parking lot together. Now we just need is plumber. Absolutely. Recommend Sparky Linux to recover data from a corrupted hard drive. There's actually some Linux distributions based specifically to recover information from hard drives. I would investigate those first. I've done some videos on them. I can't remember off the top of my head. I want to say Rakuva might be one of them, but there's a couple of other ones that are specifically designed as distributions to plug a hard drive in and run tools to fix data. You should set it to Friday at 7 a.m. or 7 p.m. Yeah. Give people looking for something on a Friday video. Yeah. Curious to know how the mini Starlink Mini performs. Yeah, one of the challenges I have, like, you can't permanently mount it to the roof because it really wants to be facing north. And so the traditional Starlinks, they actually have a motor and they will realign themselves to point the right direction. But the Starlink Mini doesn't have any motors or actions in it. So you point it north, and on the app, there's actually an alignment tool that it'll tell you if the Starlink should be realigned for better connection. Then it'll still work if you don't do it. It'll work well if you don't do it. But it's just, they say for ultimate connection, align it within the app, and it'll work better. So we'll kind of see what goes on there. The NSA surveillance van to go with the FBI and the CIA. Yeah. That'd be kind of fun. All right, we've got to the bottom of ZTubies. Let's jump on over, see what's over on Odyssey. See if that crazy guy's yelling at me again. Russia's forcing cashless systems everywhere. Pretty much my point. Anyone believes the central control monetary system is a fool? Yeah. There's your gospel truth. On Fox News, yeah. Corporate, non-corporate independent media, yep. Bet yours says Alex Jones. No longer listen to left, right, cucks, no longer vote. I'm an independent. Yeah, that's where I said I'm an independent, for that reason, Fox News is just as bad as CNN. They're just different ways, They're both getting loud and obnoxious, and it's like y'all are both missing the point. But, let those two fight it out. It's fine. The right's going to give us the beast technology, but they're going to have too many morals to use it. The left's going to take the beast technology when they take power again and employ it on everybody. That's what's going to happen, guys. Actually, impressed some Zoomers are switching to dumb phones. This is good and positive for younger generations. Amen to that. Go back to the rotary landline with expensive long-distance call operator. Yeah, there's some things that technology is great in, The fact that we can call anywhere in the country and many places, sometimes internationally, without any expenses at all. It is good to be able to look things up. Internet with me, I am thankful I grew up without it. But I'm thankful that we have it to a degree, although I think sometimes there's too many issues with it, I think now. Oh, I'm going to lean back and read the rest of the comments here if my thing there doesn't fall off the shelf. Anyway, spent a ton of salaries, long distance, long ago. By the way, guys, this is our final comment block, so there's not going to be any more news after this. So if you like listening to comments, I'll hang out for as long as we have comments. But if y'all got to go, man, you can head on out. That's cool. Let's see. The only new version of collection. Cell phone list for a long time. Eventually got a dumb phone. Had replaced technology change, but I've always had a dumb phone. Never jumped on the smartphone bandwagon. Yeah. I think I got my first smartphone in, I think it was 2011 maybe. I'm trying to remember if it was, yeah, it was after I retired from being a professor. I think that's when I got it. Because I still had a basic flip phone when I was a college professor. To the very end. You're holding it wrong, LLM version. All right. It's a small van. Shouldn't take that long to find a cat. Yeah, I just didn't want to go and pick him up from across the van. I wanted to get him to walk on over. Unless the cat has distorted time and space, as cats are wont to do. That my cats do distort time and space. Yes, you're a sinner, but also a heretic. I will reject that I'm a heretic. I will not reject I'm a sinner. I'm a sinner saved by grace of Jesus Christ. Let's see. I have no issue being Gnostic and watching some of the ignorance that happens. There you go. You gotta kidding me? You gonna tell me the Earth's only 12,000 years old? No. I believe it's closer to like 9 or 10. Stupid American mega churches are brainwashing. No, I would agree with you. We will meet each other there in total agreement. American mega churches are brainwashing facilities. American mega churches are the biggest heretical places there are on this planet. You will find no good churches among giant American mega churches. They are full of incompetent, untheological retards, by and large. by and large. There's a few saved people in there. There's a few large churches that are doing pretty good. By and large, if you find a big Christian church, it is not Christian. So yeah, we will, we will agree on that one. We will agree on that one. So, I mean, let's address though this 12,000 year thing, young Earth, old Earth. Now there is some discussions I've been having to consider older than like 10,000 years. But hear me out on this. Okay. So open your mind a little bit and just think about these things. First and foremost, I came out of a completely atheistic background as a hardcore scientist, biological, physical sciences, and generally believed in evolution. I became a Christian when I was in my 20s. And so I never stopped to consider evolution, creation, or any of these types of things until I actually got the chance to seriously investigate the matter for myself. And the more I investigated it, first I went to the scientific journals looking at all of the evolution stuff. And I did that first, and I looked through, and there's just everything there was so full of presupposition that was not testable hypothesis. You see, you have to have a testable hypothesis if you want to come up with a model of evolution. And so there was no testable hypothesis there. Everything was all based on assumptions. Like, for example, right now they tell us the Earth is 2.9 trillion years old, I think. And you say, where do they get that date? Well, they all reference back to one textbook. That textbook referenced it back to a carbon dating of a meteor that was assumed to be that old simply because it had to be that old, because the only way it would show up in the radio dating it did is if it were that old. So it was all a group of assumptions that all based and made. And of course, that meteor was closer to the age than the Earth was because it was in space without an atmosphere until it landed here. And then we determined it landed here based upon all of it. It's a giant group of circular logic. The paleontologists reference the evolutionists. The evolutionists reference the paleontologists, and neither one of them have any concrete evidence. They just quote each other. If you actually look at it, there is no evidence for an old Earth on the basis of archaeology, paleontology, or any of these types of sciences. And you can gather that by reading the actual scientific literature of the pro-evolutionary group. So I started investigating the young creation model and looking at all that kind of stuff, and everything they're talking about makes perfect sense. In fact, if you watch the video from going live on the Christian channel here, I tell the story about in Yellowstone. You go up in Yellowstone, and when you're coming from the south, from Jackson Hole, and you're going up towards Old Faithful, there's this big stretch of road with a giant meadow in it, and then there's this stream winding through. And you get out, and there's this placard there. And the placard there sits down, and it says, this is evidence of evolution. It took this stream millions of years to create these windings. If it were not that, it'd be the straight stream. These windings are proof of how old it is, and it took thousands and thousands of years for all this kind of stuff to happen. And wouldn't you know it, that about 5 years ago, when that storm, you can look this up, about five or so years ago, when that big storm hit Yellowstone, it washed away a road, and the stream literally moved it's like 30 or 40 yards. It was way over here. Now it's way over here doing one of these things. It completely washed out a road. I don't even know if they fixed the road yet. I haven't investigated it. The point is that it doesn't take millions of years for a stream to wind its way down. It takes one flood. And that's what happened in Yellowstone that day. We saw similar things happen the same year. I think that was the same year big floods hit in Death Valley. Caused a lot of weird stuff down there. Of course, Yellowstone's is no surprise to that type of shift. At one point in time in the 70s, there's actually documented evidence of Black Dragon Cauldron literally moved like 50 yards. Like the whole cauldron just moved. So there's a lot of evidence to suggest that it's not that all of these things don't just happen. There's actually an ancient Indian tale that is allegedly passed through generations where they watched the formation of the Grand Canyon in one day. And if you look at if you look at it in terms of a water eroding it down from the top, going all the way to the bottom, so it must have taken millions of years, you'd find a whole lot more smoothing in evolution. Whereas if it's a catastrophic thing because you had a lake on top of a river and a rock wall broke over here, causing an instantaneous rush of a dam, that's what would cause that, causing all the jagged edges. And there's at least oral tales in the Native Americans in that region that says the Grand Canyon happened in one day. And it fits that same model. And so there's a lot of these little things around there that kind of make sense. So if you look back at it, the Earth as we know it and see it kind of today can be traced back to just the creation of Adam and Eve about 10,000 years ago. Now, is that exactly how the Earth is? It turns out no, because if you get into the Jewish literature, there would seem to be a more ancient Earth that predates that everything we have on our young Earth creation is just God recreating out of the shapeless void 10,000 years ago, everything we know now, but it was something else before that. There's some evidence in that too, which I've not fully investigated. I'm just saying that I am less inclined to believe a 3 trillion years from a group of circular logic without any evidence on an untestifiable theory. Whereas I'm more inclined to say we have seen in our real world circumstances the catastrophic events that occurred that shows us things that look way older than they are. Another good example is actually Mount St. Helens. So a couple years ago, I hiked around through Mount St. Helens, and we had the same thing. A volcano erupted in written history in 1980. Volcano erupted, and right when it erupted, a bunch of creation scientists came down, and a bunch of evolutionists and geologists, all sorts of people came down and started studying it. And what it turns out is that all of the people utilizing all the same tools, if they didn't have a written record of it just happening in the 80s, they would have thought it was thousands and thousands of years ago. But it wasn't. It was within record history. And so there's a lot of these things out there that demonstrate a potential young Earth that are not quite as interesting. You know, so I'm not going to be super dogmatic about exactly the age of the Earth, except to say in our modern incarnation, starting with Adam and Eve and man's history on Earth is 10,000 years old. And I'm going to stick to that. So there's a lot to be said about that. And certainly things to think about, certainly some stuff. But the reality is, man, there is so much more to this than just simply the scientists say this and the Christians say this. The scientists have science, so they must be right. I'm sorry, that's throwing your brains in the trash can a whole lot more than evaluating what ICR and Answers in Genesis do, you know, Institute for Creation Research and Answers in Genesis. Neither of which are big ministries I really stand behind a whole lot. I think they put too much emphasis on the age of the Earth and too little emphasis on the grace of man, or the grace of God against a sinning man. So there's a lot. So there's a lot of interesting things out there. First Christian rock. Not as knowledgeable as you switch links and people realize life can be changed just a few years. 20. Yeah, that's the thing, you know. There's tremendous things that you can see from the world, I gotta say. I just encourage people to get out and look at it. There's actually a fairly new, I don't know if it's too new, maybe a couple years, but it only has a few videos on it, talking about some Hollywood things. And he just did a video the other day or a couple months ago maybe on Good Will Hunting. And he references the one scene that deeply impacted me as I was traveling around. And it was the scene where Robin Williams and Matt Damon are sitting on the bench. And what I liked about that scene is he says, you know, if I talk about the Sistine Chapel, you could give me every little bit and nuance and all these types of things because of how smart you are. But I bet you never go into the Sistine Chapel to know what it smells like. And that's one of the things that really empowered me to get into the van life and to see the country, because you hear about a lot of the different parks. You know, if I say national parks, you think Grand Canyon, you think Yellowstone, you might think Zion, you might think Everglades. There's not a lot of parks that rise to the level of Conscience, but none of those are the parks I would say those are the best national parks. People ask me all the time, what was your favorite national park? I'll tell them like Lassen and White Sands and Carlsbad Caverns and Bryce Canyon. And people are like, I've never heard of any of those. I'm like, I know. But I have smelled the air at the top of the mountains at Bryce Canyon. And I have smelled the air inside of the completely dead silent cavern in Carlsbad Caverns, in a place where it was so quiet. There was not a noise to be had because you're almost a mile beneath the surface of the earth inside of a dark cave with no light anywhere. It is the most surreal experience to feel it and to smell it and to kind of see it and kind of hear it is far more fascinating than to hear about a cave called Carlsbad Caverns. And so life is fascinating as you look around and see what's out there. And I'd encourage people to get out and see what's out there. Touch grass a little bit more. Do less. I've talked about this with a friend of mine, the younger generation. I'll talk about a movie, and he can kind of summarize. It's kind of like you've seen it, but kind of like you didn't. Well, no, he just watched a review of it on YouTube. And there's something a whole lot different than watching a review on YouTube than it is actually watching it. I'd encourage people to get out and touch grass is the point of all that. How people get addicted to such low-quality entertainment that they can't remember watching the next day. I don't get it. They just do, I guess. I don't know. The cat needs a dog to play with? No. Ugh, I hate dogs. Are you still going to fix Banshee? I was never going to fix Banshee. I hope somebody fixes Banshee, but I'm not a coder. I wouldn't know how to fix Banshee. But somebody needs to fix Banshee. That is the best music player ever. Oh, sorry. There's no way of knowing how much time passed between the first and second verse in the Bible. It's very clearly literal days, actually. You're referencing the gap theory, which I would wholly reject. Starlink Mini is limited to 200 down, right? I don't know. That might be true. I haven't looked at what its upper and lower limits are, honestly. I know it doesn't have a nearly as high a potential upload, but as long as it has like a 30 upload is fairly average what I'm seeing online. I'm very pleased with that. Like I have like 17 here. My cellular here is actually supposed to be capped at I think 50 down and 30 up or something like that. Maybe 30 down and 20 up, which is really all I want. But I'm not sure they did. The company I got this from sold to another company who just promised to keep the plans. I think I actually get more internet than I was theoretically supposed to get. I could get a lot cheaper internet from them, but it would require buying their abomination of a modem, and I don't want it. So I'm happy paying a little bit more with what I got. Or, maybe I'll hunt around for another cellular option now that I actually have the Starlink as a backup too. I don't know. There are mixed reports of faster and slower. They probably give you got, hello, Prayful, greetings to you. Around 200 is what I say. Which mine's full Starlink I've ever seen over 250, sometimes less than 100. Yeah, I mean, and I don't really care. Like, I do not care for any more than like 25 down. Honestly, like we need to reset standards. Broadband should be like 25 up, 25 down, period. Anything more than that's cool and extra, but the standard minimum should be 25 up, 25 down, and we should get that everywhere in the country, period. I mean, that's what we need to do. Like, I don't need this gigabit crap. I think we're wasting too much time on gigabit crap when some people can't even get, 5 up, 5 down. But that's, of course, me who's not addicted to Netflix. So, whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I might set it up tomorrow. I might set it up Saturday. I don't know. Haven't decided. Part of it is I ordered a carrying case for it. Part of it I really don't want to open it until I get my case in. That's just part of it. Although, if I have time tomorrow, I'll probably at least get a plan and set it up. Do something with it. I don't know. Gonna bracket my phone back up in the kitchen wall where it belongs. Very cool. Yeah, more than enough to live stream. Been getting with friends, live streaming and doing multiplayer on less. Yep. Yeah, not a fan of the mega churches. Yep. There was one I'd probably consider a mega church in South Carolina that I liked swinging by every time I went there, but the pastor left, and the new direction their church has is abominable. I actually wrote in my journal last time I was there, I said I'll give this church about 5 years before it collapses. I'll have to check in on it. Wife and I refuse to do the big churches. We're also being careful after we get burnt in the small church. Yeah, that is a challenge. The challenges that you find to be more clear, the bigger churches, they tend to water down theology, which is why they're as big as they are, because they preach a gospel that's not offensive, and the problem is the gospel is inherently offensive. And so they preach a watered down gospel, which isn't true, but it speaks to people the way that they like. And so you get a whole bunch of people who have no adherence to the scriptures. It's just kind of sitting there, just like they're just taking up space and feeling the oohs and ahs and the good feelings derived by an emotionally styled worship. The biggest challenge with the smaller churches is they don't actually have, they generally have the theology a little bit better, but they don't have that heart to actually go out and serve. And that's what many of the mega churches get right. And so the Christian life is indeed a balance between serving people and between walking a sound gospel and doctrine. There are too many elements in our modern age that says doctrine is not important, and it is. But service is also important. We can't neglect one for the other. Good reminder to remind you that in July and August, I'll be doing a whole bunch of camps. So we will be off some of those days. Who knows? If Starlink works out there, maybe I could actually do a live stream. I don't know. I have no idea. But when we get these camps going, though, we're also super busy. So I don't know. Let's see. Oh, did I leave track of where I was? Let's see. Again, the same church since I was a kid in the 80s. So lucky in that regard, but as long as the pastor, well, we didn't like, he was 24/7 fire and brimstone. Yeah. Orthodox Church of Christ, if you're really looking for it. Well, the problem I have with the Orthodox churches, though, is they are too much on tradition. And tradition is really the problem that the Malachi seeks to confront. I've investigated Orthodox churches, and they're far more about their liturgies than they are about the scriptures. Now, that could be the specific church I looked at, but I have a serious problem with Orthodoxy because it seems to be a lot more focused on ritual and tradition than it is on the gospel itself. But I'd be open to seeing if that has changed over the years. Got burned volunteering, ran us to the ground, then rejected us and ran us out. Oh God, that's one of the challenges. Is if you're over volunteering, something I learned a long time ago is you have to learn that there's some things you're really good at in the church and you should help in the church, and there's some things that you shouldn't. I remember I was called. Now, some of it's, do you have the time commitment? Because I did a lot of children's ministry stuff. I sat on the board for Child Evangelism Fellowship. I did vacation Bible schools, camps, and Sunday school, and a children's church for 1 year before I decided that children's church is not something that any church should actually have. Your children should be worshiping with the family. Sunday school is where the children should get their child-focused Bible education. But I moved to this other state, and I joined this church, and they called me up. Hey, we need somebody on the board of like our Sunday school board or something for the church. And, which is, you'd think right down the list of things, it's working, teaching the curriculum for the kids in the church. And I just said, I just don't have time for it. I'm sorry. And this woman would not get off the phone until I lied to her and said I'd pray about it. It's like, I don't need to take this to prayer and God because I'm overcommitted. Okay, it's like I'm overcommitted right now. I don't need to do more stuff. But that being said, I was still doing a lot of things in ministry at that time. So at that time I was doing mentoring in Big Brothers Big Sisters, and I was actually co-leading the Christian ministry on campus. So I was a little busy. And I do know from my work at Child Evangelism Fellowship that 1 hour a month is a whole lot less than it actually takes. So, kind of like 200, yeah. Kansas for a couple years. Women make men do stupid things. And I've seen small towns like 5 people, yeah. I know there's only one who can confirm what happened all those years ago, yeah. Can say that I've been to both coasts, the Great Lakes and the Gulf. Yep. I'm in the boonies on LTE internet. Yeah, that's what we broadcast this on. We are on LTE internet here for the live stream. 100 MPS, 25 for the minimum to call broadband. I mean, that's fine. That's a laudable goal too. I wouldn't push back against that as long as we could actually get it pushed out everywhere. Like, the problem is we've shut down perfectly good 4G towers that actually got internet out to the boondocks in order to push this gigabit crap over 5G in the cities. And we should not be pushing 5G gigabit crap in the cities while people not in the cities get nothing. Because I don't think it's super viable to get wired internet to every house, but we can easily do an LTE network. Like the LTE network I'm on right here is so stinking good. It's like 50, 100 up, 50, 100 down. I have no doubt that if I weren't on a plan that's capped by my ISP, I would easily get 100 up, 100 down here on cellular. And I've got it. I've gotten 100 up, 100 down on cellular, I think, off of this tower before I switched to the limited one, which gave me more bandwidth and less cost. So, all right. Not a fan of the fake Christian mega church rock and rap. Yeah, it's garbage. It is garbage. Tom, Desert Street sounds fun. Oh, yeah. In January, usually November to January, usually around November, starting in October, November, I'm usually in the Mojave Desert, and then I spend about 6 to 8 weeks in the Sonoran Desert, sometimes actually longer. Maybe 2 months. Let's say 2 months in the Sonoran Desert, and then I'll spend another week or 2 in the Chickasaw Desert. So I do a lot of desert streaming in the wintertime, yeah. All LTE, too. My LTE isn't anywhere near that good, yeah. 4G is just so much better than 5G. 5G barely... Oh, absolutely, yeah. I've actually... I was having connection problems with my phone. It turns out it was the 5G connection. I took my phone and kicked off 5G and went just down to 4G LTE only. Have not had a problem since. Definitely. Sits on the edge. Front yard has 5G. Backyard has 4G. Phone won't work in the house. Wonderful. All right. I think Toe Creator said we create our own future. Let's see. Current unlimited mobile hotspot is 11 down and 5 up. Yeah, I mean 5 up's good. Right now I'm uploading at 5K up to get a 1080p stream, which I would have to have. I think I'd have to have a 10 up to do. So if I have a 5 up connection, I can stream at 720. But we are pretty good here. All right, I think I've got to the bottom of all the comments. That was kind of a fun, very long but fun hangout. So hopefully we didn't get too esoteric. Hope I didn't run people off with all this crazy Christian talk. I don't know. If you're more curious, though, have a look at my channel, Our Walk in Christ. We have that going on. All right, guys, thanks for watching, and we will catch you all later on.